is like the most crushing heartbreak, you know? But it was important for me to take that feeling and turn it into something that I could then share and that, you know, we could all sing together at shows and like find our own little version of healing, like in community. Yeah.
And I know it's a cliche, but knowing that somebody else has been through it
It really
genuinely helps
helps.
people.
It really helps. Yeah, it really helps.
Have you got a song that's done that for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, hmm, there are so many. I'm trying to pinpoint one. I mean, um, I'm thinking of the song Twilight by Elliott Smith. And like, I think it's weirdly that first line that really captures, maybe it's the way that I see the world, maybe it's how I feel, but like, I haven't laughed this hard in a long time. I better stop now before I start crying. And like, that sense of the way that just being a highly sensitive person and the way that, you know, emotions kind of weave and intermesh. And I think there's something about his spirit, though, that I have always felt so connected to. It's like such desperately sad music, but like there's something really uplifting to me about it somehow. Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel that connection with your music as well, though. I mean, I know people talked about Black Dog a lot when that came out and how that spoke to something they felt. But even, you know, the happier songs, I feel express something universal, and particularly on this record. And that's that's hard to do. That's to tap into the collective psyche.
It is difficult because, and you never really know if it is going to connect in that way. Because I think for me,
And you can't write it
no,
to do
you
that.
can't. No, you really can't. And I think that the songs that do connect the most universally are the ones that feel quite specific and about like one lived moment or experience that people are able to like put themselves into or have experienced a version of it. But it's rarely just about like, sometimes we feel happy, sometimes we feel sad. You know, it's like not kind of universal in that way.
What are you looking forward to the most with the album tour coming up? A whole year of excitement around this music.
I think just like seeing the many lives that the album is going to take. Like these stories have been mine for so long. And my favorite part is just sharing it and seeing how it is in the world. You know, I weirdly can't believe that like only me and like a small pocket of people even heard it. So I think hearing people sing the words back at shows, being able to like take on other creative projects as I go along, DJing more, bringing people together, just seeing how the album lives out there.
But this is a superb album. I listened to it twice on the way here because I came from your old hunting ground in West London. It's been on the stereo all week. It sounds great on headphones. It sounds great on speakers. It sounds great in the car. You must be really pleased.
I feel really excited, you know? And I think just being able to have the time, you know, it's been almost like 3 years of labor, and just to really dial in the production and make sure that every song kind of has its place and feels essential to me and also in the context of the record. I'm just super excited.
Thank you for listening to The Interview. You'll find more in-depth conversations on The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with Artemis II astronaut Jeremy Hansen, the artist Tracy Emin, and director Chloe Zhao. Until the next time, goodbye for now.
From the BBC, that was the
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we're live downtown in our CBC studios. Today is one of those days we've been waiting for in southern Manitoba weather-wise. A high of 21 degrees and sunny in Brandon, and up in Thompson, of course, cooler, but at least it's light snow for you this morning and a high of 0, so you have a straight-ahead forecast as well. Thanks for joining us wherever you're listening in Manitoba. The morning show's on until 8:37 a.m., and you can always reach our commuter line at 788-3093. Let's say good morning to the team. Mr. Corey Funk is here, back in his usual role, directing the program. He'll be on air covering the commute. Mr. Abby Adiemi is also back. Abby's our senior tech in the show and covers your forecasts. Of course, he came back with a nice forecast. He'll get to deliver nice news all morning. And there's Mr. Darren Marash, our producer of our YouTube stream. Say hello there if you're watching this show live. All right, let's get started with the news on CBC. Heather Wells is also live here with our news center headlines. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, a flood threat is forcing some people in Peguis First Nation out of that community. Those who have health issues or are pregnant are getting top priority. Crews are still busy putting up protection for properties. But Angela Flett says even though the community is more organized for this flood, she will be staying behind. She doesn't plan to leave. She says when the flooding starts, she's going to monitor and protect her property. So we'll hear more from her. And the Royal Winnipeg Ballet has taken it on the road, touring rural and northern Manitoba communities. The On the Edge tour started a northern leg last weekend, going through Flin Flon and as far north as Gillam and Woboden. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Sure they'll have a warm welcome wherever they go. Let's talk about what is happening in our program this morning. We are going to talk more about Peguis, and we have just quite a story coming up for you right before 8 o'clock. We're going to talk to a man who's been out of Peguis for years. We're talking since 2011. So we'll find out exactly what that's been like for him. You can only imagine. In addition, you might have seen Brady Oliveira around town, not talking about football, but talking about dogs. From touchdowns to tail wags, we'll meet the CFL star and co-host Alex Bloomberg to talk about their new show on CBC, Must Love Dogs. It's getting a lot of buzz and a lot of bark, and they're going to be in studio a little later. Right now, though, World Report.
On cue, she dressed the Governor General when the Pope came to Canada. She put Haida art on the Oscars red carpet. Her work is shown in Paris and Tokyo. Dorothy Grant is a pioneer of Indigenous fashion in this country, and she'll be here to tell you her story.
Fashion is about culture. It is about a place and time in our life.
Q with Tom Power this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Angie Seth.
We actually heard what we thought were fireworks or firecrackers, and somebody asked, was that gunfire? And the vendor said, yes, that's gunfire. Run.
Vancouverite Brenda Lee describing the moment her Mexican vacation turned terrifying. A gunman opened fire on a popular tourist site yesterday. Brenda and her companions survived, but one Canadian was killed, another injured. So were 12 other people. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand is calling it a horrific act of gun violence. The CBC's Jorge Barrera has the latest on the incident.
Atop Mexico's Pyramid of the Moon, fear and violence. In video verified by CBC News, tourists watch as a lone gunman stalks around, pointing a weapon. Gunshots can be heard, while off to the side several people lay motionless. The shooter then runs up, as tourists run down to get away. Daniel Edwards from Windsor, Ontario, watched it unfold.
He wasn't like a sniper looking down a scope into a crowd. He was someone just with a handgun, kind of just shooting almost sporadically.
Mexican authorities say a Canadian woman was killed and another Canadian injured. A woman in her 20s shot in the chest. Also injured are Russian, Dutch, U.S. and Colombian nationals, including a child, some with gunshot wounds, others from falls down the steep pyramid. Authorities say the gunman took his own life. They also found a knife and ammunition at the scene. The Teotihuacan Pyramid, 50 kilometers northeast of Mexico City, saw 1.8 million international visitors last year alone. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum was quick to offer condolences, saying in a statement, "The incident deeply pains us," and adding that she was in contact with the Canadian embassy. Police haven't revealed the motive, but local reports say that the gunman had been shouting that tourists shouldn't be at the site, which belonged to the gods. Jorge Barrera, CBC News, Tulancingo, Mexico.
Preparations are underway in Pakistan for a new round of talks between the U.S. and Iran aimed at ending the war the United States and Israel launched more than 7 weeks ago. The 2-week ceasefire is set to expire tomorrow, and as Tom Perry reports from Jerusalem, it is still unclear whether that ceasefire will be extended.
In Pakistan's capital, soldiers and security agents are out in force under billboards reading Islamabad talks, as Pakistan's government prepares to host a second round of negotiations aimed at ending the U.S. war on Iran. With a 2-week ceasefire set to expire tomorrow, there's still much uncertainty around these talks. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to fly to Islamabad today. Iran has not yet said definitively whether it will send a delegation to meet him, though the Reuters news agency has quoted an Iranian official saying Tehran is positively reviewing its participation. Iran remains frustrated with a U.S. naval blockade of shipping into and out of its ports, accusing Washington of trying to force it into submission. For his part, U.S. President Donald Trump posted several messages on social media yesterday, writing, "I'm winning a war by a lot," and that things are going very well, calling his Democratic opponents weak, pathetic traitors, and accusing what he calls the anti-America fake news media of rooting for Iran. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Japan is taking another step away from the pacifist stance. Today, it formally scrapped its ban on lethal weapon exports. And that means Japan is clear to start selling warships, combat drones, and missiles to 17 select countries. It says this decision was made at a time when the security environment is changing rapidly. In other news, sources tell CBC News later today, Prime Minister Mark Carney will name a new advisory council on Canada-U.S. trade. It will replace the one set up by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in early last year. The shakeup comes just ahead of a July 1st deadline to review the CUSMA Trade Pact. For more, let's go to CBC's Janice McGregor in our Parliamentary Bureau. So, Janice, tell us, why would Carney be announcing a new team of advisors?
Well, let's start with the fact that the context and the dynamics for this review are quite different than the previous renegotiation of NAFTA, including the issue set. The chair of Canada's premiers is hearing that Canada's dairy industry, for example, may not be the focus of the drama this time. Here's Rob Lance on what Donald Trump's ambassador, Pete Hoekstra, told him.
He doesn't think that supply management is going to be up for any substantial changes. Those are encouraging words.
Instead, administration officials are laser focused on threats to U.S. manufacturing, sharply critical of Canada's recent decision to allow electric vehicles from China into the North American market. The U.S. trade representatives also expressed concerns with Canada's pharmaceutical pricing model. Brand name drug protections are an old fight that could be up for a revival. And U.S. digital giants remain deeply unhappy with Canada's moves to regulate online content and support its own cultural sector. Mark Carney's made some recent elbows-up appearances lately, promoting Canadian music and movies, perhaps signaling that this is going to be a fight ahead.
So what do we know about how this CUSMA review process will unfold then over the next couple of months?
Trump's trade representative Jameson Greer says he wants to work out separate protocols with Mexico and Canada to fix the things that the Americans don't believe are working well with the existing three-way deal. Now, separate talks boost U.S. leverage, preventing any kind of 2-against-1 dynamics with Canada and Mexico sticking together to push back. And to that end, Greer met with his Mexican counterpart yesterday, announced that their first official negotiating round will be in late May.
Okay, Janice McGregor for us in Ottawa. Janice, thank you.
You're welcome.
Canada Post is in crisis, and the numbers prove it. The national mail carrier says it lost nearly $1.6 billion last year. That's the biggest loss ever. Marina Van Stackelberg has more.
We absolutely don't want to be relying on taxpayers to top us off so that we can continue to operate.
Spokesperson John Hamilton says Canada Post will likely need more government bailouts in the future. The Crown Corporation has been relying on $2 billion in federal loans just to stay afloat, and it continues to bleed money. In 2025, Canada Post says it lost more than $1.5 billion. That's a new record. It blames old federal regulations that prevented it from competing with private mail carriers and labor disputes. Nationwide strikes completely shut down mail service right before the last two busy holiday seasons. Hamilton says they're having trouble getting those customers back.
And this year, we're consistently down again because our large retailers, those who ship a lot of parcels, are saying, we'll talk to you when you have certainty. Until then, we're going to stay with the competition.
Canada Post has begun a major restructuring to stay financially viable. Last week, it announced which new postal codes will lose door-to-door delivery. All Canadians will be switched to community mailboxes over the next 5 years, saving $400 million annually and leading to job losses. This all comes as the Canadian Union of Postal Workers has begun voting on a new contract. The union has yet to comment. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
And finally, plans to build one of Canada's largest AI data centres are facing growing pushback in Saskatchewan. Bell Canada wants to break ground on the $1.7 billion project this spring, but the speed and scale of the plans is concerning some residents. Here's more from Alexander Silberman.
Say no to AI! In the face of angry and vocal opposition, a rural municipality near Regina voted to give Bell Canada the green light, approving a development agreement for what the telecom says will be the country's largest AI data center. Dan Rink is Bell's president of AI Fabric. He says the company's facilities are quiet and don't use water to have minimal impact on communities.
We go through all permitting and all environmental studies, and we build these in a way that allows us to be really proud of them.
Hundreds of residents have turned out to protest the plans in recent weeks, criticizing transparency and speed. The 64-hectare project was only announced about a month ago. The majority of councillors voting on the data center were not elected, but recently appointed by the provincial government.
We would like to be asked.
Resident Sarah Dirksen says she's upset about the lack of public consultation.
We would like to be a part of the decision-making process before we just build a giant center that's going to exhaust tons of our resources.
Bell says it will bring billions of dollars in revenue to Saskatchewan's economy and add 80 permanent full-time jobs. It aims to break ground on the project this spring. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
And that's the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Angie Seth. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us here on Information Radio. The whole team's in today. It is 10 after 6, and we're glad to have you with us on CBC 89.3 FM. And I betcha everyone in your life will be in a great mood today as well. Across the province, pretty calm day. Not as warm in the north as in the south, but in the south, we've got a beautiful spring day ahead. So that always changes the mood in our province. We've been waiting for it. The weather in a moment. We also are going to hear some more good news for those who've been waiting for a menopause clinic to return to Manitoba. Winnipeg is set to open this new clinic in the fall of next year. We've been without one for nearly a decade since it was cut, so we'll hear more about that clinic. Also on this first hour of the program, we're going to talk about the process of rebuilding the Manario Trail. The province says they're doing that right now after it was torched by a forest fire last year, so we'll hear more in the news. Coming up, stay tuned. Heather Wells is in our news center this morning with all kinds of headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, evacuations have started at Peguis First Nation. Expectant mothers and people with health issues are being moved first. Angela Flett, though, says while she's happy the community seems more organized for this flood with all the preparations, she's not going anywhere. She says she's going to stay behind and protect her property. So we'll hear from her coming up. And the province, as you mentioned, expects to open the Manario Trail this summer. After all, wildfires in 2025 burned about half the distance hiking trail in the Whiteshell. Early last week, the province said it wasn't sure when the trail would reopen, but now Manitoba Park says volunteers will help clear the trail and make it passable this summer. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
Thanks for confirmation of the timeline. I think a lot of people will be really happy about that.
Absolutely. And they plan to continue to work to get the trail back to the way it used to be, but it's not going to happen all for this summer, but they will make sure that you can hike on it.
Yeah, hopefully wildfire situation will be not what it was. Yeah. All right, Heather, thank you.
Thank you.
Heather's with us throughout the morning, of course, and you can check news anytime online as it develops at cbc.ca/Manitoba. And now look at Abby coming in today, ready to deliver the good news. He's even wearing a bright white sweatshirt. You look like hello over there.
Yes, Marcy.
It's going to be good, right?
It's really going to be a good one. And I just looked out the window to see the sign. In about 10, 12 minutes, we should see sunrise here in the city. And
I'm here for it, as people say.
It's going to be a really bright one across the southern part of the province. We're going to see this warming trend. However, up north, we still have unsettled and snowy conditions towards Churchill this morning. So while the south enjoys the sunshine and double-digit highs, we should see a mix of snow and freezing rain towards Churchill. So for travelers up there, just a heads up for you, you still need to be cautious on the road, as this lingering snow and freezing rain can really create a slippery surface for you. So take it easy. For Winnipeg right now, we're starting the day at 2 degrees at the Forks. It is clear sunshine on its way. We warm up to a sunny high of 17 degrees today, though we're going to notice a bit of windy conditions in the mix, as the breezy conditions is going to be gushing all the way to 50 kilometers later in the day. Brandon warms up to 21 today, while Morden gets to 19 degrees. Up north, we're still seeing winter-like conditions, but for the city, we're expecting mainly sunny skies, heading for that beautiful afternoon sunshine high of 17 degrees, and those sunny skies will be sticking around for the southern parts, even looking sunnier for tomorrow. But right now, we are around 2 degrees. We're going to stay around 6, 7 for most of the morning before we warm up to 17 later. We might even touch 18 if it stays warmer. So I'll take that, Mercy.
Right. All right, Abby, Corey, question for the team. So what are you most looking forward to doing, either today or when we have consistently nice temperatures like this?
Me first.
Okay.
My favorite trail, Liberia Park, sometimes it can be very muddy on the trails, but with this baking that the sun is going to create, I might really have enough room to walk and not get my shoes messed up.
Mucked up with the mud layers.
Yeah, with the mud layers.
Yeah, that's the worst, right?
So with the sunshine, you're going to have a dry trails.
You won't have to go on the side and find a stick and dig it all out of the grooves of the runners. And
Exactly.
so that's where Abby's heading. How about you, Corey? What are you most looking
Actually,
forward to?
later this afternoon, I'm going to pick up the kids from daycare, and I'm going to bike over to my friend's place, and we're going to have a barbecue. So they're going to put them in the bike trailer, and I'm going to pop some snacks in there with them, and we're just going across the city to go just ride bikes and just hang out and eat burgers.
I want to start cleaning the yard.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really excited about cleaning the yard. I know I can't rake. It's, it's kind of too wet, but there's some cleaning I think I could do like properly in the yard and bring out a couple chairs. I know we're still going to probably get some cooler weather and maybe even some flurries, but I'm going to go for it a little bit, I think.
That's a good idea.
You can call if you're up early, you're listening to our team and you're thinking about what you're looking forward to. It's been a while, right? 788-3205. How is the traffic going, Corey?
Quiet out there. I mean, yeah, but you're seeing, like yesterday we went for a walk yesterday. You just see more people on foot out on the sidewalks, saw some electric scooters, some things like that. So those kind of things are starting to come out. There was a motorcycle out this morning even. So just heads up, there's a lot more different types of vehicles, smaller vehicles out there now. So look out for that. If you do see something else you want to let me know about, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, we are learning more details about the province's plan to open a new menopause clinic. The NDP already set aside $5.2 million in the budget for this clinic. The government says it's going to help replace the care lost after the Mature Women's Centre was shut down in 2017 under the previous Progressive Conservative government. Premier Wab Kinew yesterday was talking about some more details here. He says the new building will be located at 1333 Kenniston Boulevard in South Winnipeg. Here's a bit more of what he shared yesterday.
Women deserve high-quality health care through every season of life. And as you go through the season of menopause, I think there's so many unique opportunities for Manitoba's healthcare system to be there to support you, to help you, and also to ensure that your long-term health is going to be made stronger. Manitoba once led the way when it came to delivering menopause services, and now we want to reclaim that spot, and that's why our health minister brought coverage for hormone replacement therapy to not only help with the cost of living, but also to help with the quality of life so that we can invest in prevention. And now this new clinic that is going to be there for women experiencing menopause is going to be that full 360 wraparound of services to help complement everything that you need to be able to have the best of life here in Manitoba. We're restoring the leadership that our province once had. And I got to say, the people who chose the location, you knocked it out of the park, choosing this part of southwest Winnipeg. But even though it's near a bunch of other services that you may want to access, this is going to be a service for the entire province. So not only will it benefit Winnipeggers, this will benefit women from the north, from western Manitoba, the south, east, the Interlake, everywhere. This is going to be a real draw.
So that's Premier Wab Kinew sharing some more additional details about the new center that's going to open, the Menopause Clinic. Dr. Rebecca Rankus worked at the previously called Mature Women's Center before it closed and is hopeful that this new clinic will tighten the gap in women's healthcare.
I've spent a decade working in women's health, and menopause care has been at the center of my practice for most of that time. I was a physician at the Mature Women's Center when it was open. I was there in 2017 when the decision was made to close it, and I was one of the voices that spoke publicly against that decision. At the time, I said that closing the clinic felt like sending our patients into the abyss. I worried that they would fall through the cracks. I worried that continuity of care would be lost. I worried that the women who relied on specialized, coordinated care would pay the price. I wish I could tell you that I was wrong. I wasn't. When the center closed, Manitobans were told that the care provided was redundant. We were told that primary care and community gynecology could absorb the need without a problem, that this specialized model simply was not necessary. I want to tell you that that was what that has now looked like in practice. Wait times for Manitoba Health covered specialized menopause care can extend beyond 6 months and often more than a year. And those waits are not shrinking, they are growing. Because the demand never disappeared when the center closed. It was only hidden, pushed into family practices and gynecology offices that were already full, carried quietly by women who assumed that the exhaustion, the brain fog, the sleeplessness, the pain were just something they had to live with. The promise was that the need could be met elsewhere. The reality is that it could not. It was not, and the gap in care has only widened. Awareness of menopause and perimenopause has grown dramatically in recent years, and the demand for informed, multidisciplinary care is going to keep growing. This province needs to be ready for that. Menopause is not a single event. It's a transition that unfolds over time, and for many patients, symptoms change and intensify in ways that require ongoing assessment and adjustment. Without continuity, women who should be thriving at this stage of life spend years feeling dismissed or unwell. That's the gap this clinic is designed to help close. Bringing this model of care back into the community gives patients access to a coordinated, team-based approach that allows providers to look at the full picture. It allows us to consider how different symptoms may be connected and to adjust care over time. It brings together the time, expertise, and collaboration needed to truly support patients through menopause while also strengthening education and knowledge sharing across the system. Thank you, Minister, for listening to patients and clinicians. Thank you for understanding that women's health at this stage of life is not optional and not a place to cut corners. And thank you for taking this very important first step towards solving this problem. For the patients who waited, this matters. For the clinicians who watched the gap widen, this matters. And for future generations of Manitobans whose lives will be impacted by menopause, this matters.
That was Dr. Rebecca Rankus speaking yesterday in Winnipeg, a menopause specialist who worked at the previously called Mature Women's Center before it closed in 2017. You also heard from the Premier, Wab Kinew. The new menopause clinic is set to open in fall of next year.
The puck may have dropped on the playoffs, but the news doesn't stop for hockey. I'm Brittany Greenslade, host of CBC Winnipeg News at 6. To get your local news, stream CBC Winnipeg News at 6, 24/7 on CBC Gem, the CBC News app, and selected streaming platforms. CBC Winnipeg News at 6, your local news on your favorite streaming device.
I was so sad last night. I had it on CBC, and they had the sting for the hockey playoffs, and I automatically felt like I should be running to the television, and then I remembered. we didn't make it this year. It's all right, Jets. There's another year next year. 6:22 a.m. is the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on that app and YouTube. Thanks for joining us this morning on Information Radio on CBC. Current temperature is 2, winds are calm, and the sky is mainly clear in downtown Winnipeg as we get ready for a lovely day. Our high is going to be 17 with lots of sun. Well, next, let's turn to international news. There are plenty of questions about how the next round of peace talks between Iran and the United States is going to play out. Vice President J.D. Vance and other U.S. negotiators are set to travel to Pakistan today, but so far Iran has been reluctant to commit to another round of talks. Now, that is partly a reaction to the U.S. seizure of an Iranian cargo ship over the weekend. All of this as the ceasefire agreement is set to expire tomorrow night. To talk about the diplomatic challenges that lay ahead, Colin Robertson is with us. He's a former Canadian diplomat and fellow at the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. Good morning.
Good to be with you again, Marcy.
Yeah, nice to have you with us. Just before we update the latest on this, I want to actually start with a question that I asked a guest yesterday on this. We were talking about Donald Trump's style and his government's quote-unquote style of negotiating and how diplomacy is not what it was. He basically does everything like it's a private business deal. Everything's sort of, you never really know where he's going to go next. And the guest yesterday that I was speaking with, who was also an expert in international affairs, said, that being applied to this it could create a bigger mess, and maybe that's why we're seeing this. What's your sense of how these talks, quote unquote, are different from what we've ever seen before?
Well, I think your guest is right. So Donald Trump is schooled in the Manhattan dog-eat-dog world of real estate, and that's not diplomacy. It's all about using leverage, and he prefers one-on-one. He doesn't like going to multilateral forums, for example. It's divide and conquer and use whatever leverage you can, bombast and the rest, outrage. It's very unorthodox. I don't think it's terribly effective in terms of international relations, but that's what we have to deal with. Of course, Canadians themselves are subject to Mr. Trump's approach with our ongoing Canada, U.S., Mexico trade negotiations, which Mr. Trump, I think, would like to see broken down as U.S., Canada, and then U.S., Mexico as an example.
Mm-hmm. So then what does that mean for the biggest challenges for Pakistan to try to mediate what's going on between the U.S. and Iran right now?
Well, it's a challenge, but what we've got going for us is that public opinion in the United States opposes this war, and Mr. Trump is looking to the midterms. He still has that he would like to have implemented by Congress, and right now it looks like he would lose at least the House of Representatives and perhaps even the Senate because of the unhappiness about both the war and affordability. And the war, of course, is contributing to that, as Canadians themselves recognize. Prices have gone up all over the world with the disruption that's going on in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. What are the main sticking points as you look at how far apart the two sides are right now?
Well, there are a number. There's a big difference. The Iranians, for example, want to come out of this with control of the Straits of Hormuz, which for the Americans and the rest of the world is sort of no-go, but because they would see this as an opportunity to start extracting tolls for any traffic, which, as we've learned, is a vital choke point. They also want to be able to keep their nuclear ambitions, development ambitions alive. The Americans say, no, you've got to end that and return the enriched uranium that's buried somewhere in the desert. The Iranians want all sanctions lifted in some form of reparations. The Americans and the Europeans, at least for now, would be keeping those things in place. And I haven't even talked about the Israelis and what they want. Of course, that's a big factor in what's going on today, too.
So why don't you talk about that for a moment then, Colin, what the Israelis want?
Well, the Israelis want to be able to continue doing what they're doing in Lebanon. They want to have widened their frontiers because they feel they've been violated in the past from what Hezbollah has been doing. They want to have as big a security cordon as they can have, and they want regime change in Tehran, which has not yet taken place and doesn't seem likely for now.
Donald Trump continues to say, more than once, that the U.S. is winning this war. How important is it that he's able to call the outcome of these talks a win, do you think?
Well, it's important for him and important for his cult-like supporters that he can do this. And I think that he's already, through Truth Social and his rhetoric, sounding that, well, we've effectively won this. It's just a matter of tying up loose ends. I think he was hoping for what he was able to do with Maduro in Venezuela and what he would like to do in Cuba, have something quick and done, and then move on to the next. But this one's gone on, and the Iranians have proven more resilient than I think either he or Benjamin now who convinced Trump to proceed, thinking that once they went in, there'd be a regime change.
Which is somewhat surprising, only sitting as an armchair commentator thinking about Iran and previous, conflict situations and years and what the history has been there and how long they will stand their ground. That these leaders would have thought that this would have ended somehow quickly or come to a resolution.
Absolutely. And Marcy, you underline an important fact in any kind of negotiation is understand the history. That's critical to diplomacy. You've got to understand where the other side's coming from, and certainly between the United States and Iran, during the whole life of this regime, going back to 1979 when the Ayatollah came back, the Shah fled to the United States. The Americans were seen to be backing the previous regime. The Iranians, as you recall, occupied the American embassy for, hundreds of days, and Jimmy Carter paid a price when he ran against Ronald Reagan in 1980. And since then, there's been planes shot down, there's been proxy assassinations on both sides. So there's a lot of history, and it's pretty bitter history between the two countries.
Mm-hmm. Just last, Colin, what are you watching for specifically as signs of maybe diplomatic progress in the coming days?
Well, this will sound ironic, but today I'm watching True Social and Donald Trump because he usually is ahead of the game before it gets to the networks in terms of what's going on from the American perspective. I'm looking to see first, does that plane with J.D. Vance and delegation take off? And second, does Trump decide to extend the ceasefire, which is supposed to expire tomorrow? If either of those two things happen, then I think that's a positive sign that at least discussions will take place. And
right.
On the Iranian side, it's hard to figure out.
All right, we'll leave it there this morning. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Colin Robertson with us live, a former Canadian diplomat and fellow at the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. You're listening to 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube on Information Radio, name of the morning show, here live downtown in Winnipeg. We'll get into your forecast and your latest commuter details coming up. If you've got something from the roads to tell us about, 788-3093. And then we are going to dip right after the news, dip into business news specifically. Today, another Canadian airline is making some cuts because of the jump in energy costs, so we're going to hear more about that. But first, your news from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 2 degrees, and this is more like it. Beautiful day on the way in Winnipeg. Lots of sunshine, just a bit of a southerly breeze this afternoon, taking us to a high of 17. Some people in Peguis First Nation are on the move, forced out by a flood threat. Those with health issues or who are pregnant are getting top priority. Crews are still busy sandbagging properties. 4 crews using 15 truckloads of sand building a dike around Angela Flett's cousin's home. Flett says the house is still being renovated from the last flood 4 years ago. She says it's good to see the community is so organized this time, but she has no plans to leave.
Oh, it is very important because I said we got to watch our sump pumps. We went through I don't know how many sump pumps in the last flood because they're steady running. So I'm not being evacuated, I'm staying. Even if the water comes, I said my mother never left her home in 2022 and I'm going to watch our homes, make sure that they're safe.
Flett admits it will be scary to stay behind once the flooding starts. The scales of justice have ruled in favor of a sport fisher who challenged his eastern Manitoba municipality in court. The RM of Alexander banned Pinawa Bay's Aaron Wiebe from attending its council meetings for 3 years. Wiebe took that to the Court of King's Bench, which ruled the municipality has no authority to enact a blanket ban on someone it deems disruptive. Lawyer Kevin Toyne represented Wiebe in court.
If someone is being disruptive at a particular meeting, councils have the ability to put an end to that. But that person who is disruptive has the opportunity to come back to the next meeting, behave themselves, redeem themselves, and be allowed to continue to attend and observe.
Toyne says people owe his client a debt of gratitude for standing up for the right to observe council meetings. The Manario Trail will reopen this summer after all. The province says it has a recovery plan for the fire-damaged trail in Whiteshell Provincial Park. Volunteers will help clear brush in hopes of making the trail passable. Heavier machinery will come in this fall to get rid of downed trees. Environment Minister Mike Moyes says the province wants to create new distance hiking trails in other provincial parks to take the pressure off Manario.
It kind of started with COVID, lots of people getting out into nature, spending more time out there, and the popularity just hasn't actually went back. And so we want to make sure that people have those opportunities.
You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. A century-old manufacturer based in Winnipeg is entering a new chapter. Broken Head Ojibwe Nation has purchased Freed and Freed International with eyes on economic and employment opportunities for First Nations people. Chief Gordon Bluesky says the First Nation can open new doors in the company's already existing relationships with Canada's armed forces and the RCMP.
This is something that I believe that we can take to that next level in terms of having not only our involvement, but also to have these governments actually check the box on First Nation procurement opportunities. And right now, we don't see that happening.
Freed and Freed has also manufactured items for Canada Post, Parks Canada, and the country's past Olympians. Bluesky says a point of pride would be to one day see an athlete or a worker don a uniform that says Made in Treaty 1. One of Mexico's most popular tourist destinations is the site of tragedy. A mass shooting Monday killed a Canadian woman and injured 13 more, including a second Canadian woman. It happened at the historic pyramids just outside Mexico City. The gunman eventually killed himself. Daniel Edwards is a Canadian from Windsor, Ontario. He witnessed the shooting.
So I thought there might have been like fireworks or something like that. And then I just started to hear people scream. And I looked up and he was with his gun pointed in the air. My tour guide looked at me and he's like, run.
The president of Mexico is expressing her condolences and says she is in touch with the Canadian embassy. You can hear more on this story as well as other national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. The Royal Winnipeg Ballet is taking it on the road, touring rural and northern Manitoba communities. The On the Edge tour started a northern leg last weekend, going through Flin Flon and as far north as Gillam and Wiboden. Dancers performed excerpts from A Midsummer Night's Dream and Swan Lake. They're from the company's student program, which attracts dancers from around the world. That includes Molly Zambon from Australia.
We've gotten to see lots of different parts of Manitoba that we don't usually get to see, so we've been able to learn lots and perform for many different audiences, which has been an amazing experience.
The tour wraps up with 2 performances in Kenora on Friday. You can find the latest news updated throughout your day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Heather, earlier we had a team question, but you were already off back in the news center. We were asking how you're going to enjoy the nice day ahead in Winnipeg, 17 and sunny, and what you might be looking forward to. We've got a couple days of nice weather. So Abby's going to LeBarrier Park it. He feels like the trails might be, kind of less muddy. So get out there. Corey's heading out with the kids for sure. I want to do some yard stuff, just like clean up a little bit what I can. Where's your mind going? A walk, or what are you thinking?
I think a walk along the Seine or along the Red River. I love river walks. They're beautiful.
Right. Do you know what I haven't done in a long time? I haven't been on the river in a long time.
Me too.
Yeah. We should make a date to do that post-show one time, get it in the taxi, and that'd be nice.
The city looks so different from the water, right?
Always. And it's so funny. It's one of the first things I always do when I'm on vacation somewhere is book whatever water tour, if that's the case, and it's seasonal and it works, Chicago's got a really great architectural tour from the water, but you forget sometimes to do it in our own hometown. So.
Okay, well then it's a date,
It's a date. Love it. Let's find out just how warm it's going to get and what's going to happen with the rest of the province. And obviously when we're talking about all this, we do know that a slower melt is more, what you'd appreciate around Peguis where it's flooding and in other areas. But today is going to be pretty warm here, at least in the South, Abby.
Yeah, the Southern Plains will definitely be warm warming towards double digits today, but looking up north, we're still seeing a cool and lingering flurries and even some breezy conditions. For the Red River Valley region, Winnipeg and nearby, mainly sunny. Some windy conditions, as you know, those southern gusts will pick up sometime this afternoon. Currently, 2 degrees at the Forks and -1 at the airports. Morning temperatures going to be hovering around 6 degrees, and then we warm up to about 17 degrees later today. For the Westman region, we're looking at temperatures around -2 at this time and clear. Breezy southeast winds, highs would get to 21. For the Parkland region, Dauphin towards Russell, 0 at this time. Clear skies, sunshine already making its appearance there. You warm up to 15, while in the Interlake region, Gimli and nearby areas, we're looking at 0. Clear skies, also sunny conditions, high around 11. Then we track it into the northern part where we're seeing temperatures between 0 around the Par all the way towards a -12 as you get towards Tudula Lake this morning. The Par Flame we're seeing highs would get to 9 degrees today. However, you're starting hovering around 0 and -1. For Norway House, we're looking at -8 and clear afternoon rain in the forecast, warming up to 4 degrees. Well, for Thompson, Linlick and Gillam, the region's cloudy at this time. We're seeing temperatures between -6 and -10. Light snow also spotted in that part of the province. We'll see highs between -4 and 0. For Tudula Lake towards Churchill, these far regions will see light snow between -9 and -12 for actual temperatures at this time, and highs would struggle to get to -6 for that northern part of the province. In summary, we're going to see this warm spring day in the south with lots of sunshine, while up north, the snow is still hanging back, so you might look out for some freezing rain in some spots and be careful on the roads. But for Winnipeg, we're warming up to a high of 17 today. It's 2 degrees at the Forks.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey, did you bike in or walk in? What did you do today?
Biked in today, and it was lovely. Only one little bit of snow on our driveway that gets covered by the house. But other than that, it was smooth. It was lovely.
A lot of melting yesterday.
A lot of melting, and a lot more to come today. Very quiet commute so far. Highways are looking all right. Haven't even heard of many potholes actually recently. But if you do see something going on, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line with your walking, bike, and driving. We'd love to get an update. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you, Corey Funk.
Thank you.
It is time for Business News, 21 minutes to 7. Here's Crystalie Ramlakan joining us live with her report on Zoom. Hello to you.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So let's talk about what trade to start. Sources say that Prime Minister Mark Carney is going to name a new advisory council on Canada and U.S. trade today. So what else do we know about this?
Well, the council will replace the one previously set up by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau last year. And the previous group included former premiers, labor leaders, industry stakeholders, and diplomats. It's not clear who Carney will tap for his council yet. And Trudeau struck his committee during the negotiations that led to the Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement known as CUSMA during U.S. President Donald Trump's first term in office. And that trade agreement, as we know, is up for review this year. Now, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer met with Mexico's president yesterday, and a joint statement indicated the U.S. and Mexico will hold an official bilateral negotiating round next month. Now, when asked if Canada has an official start date for negotiations, a spokesperson for Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc did not offer a specific timeline, but said officials are engaging on an ongoing basis with their U.S. counterparts. Now, Greer has previously floated the idea of breaking CUSMA into separate bilateral deals with both Canada and Mexico. And this is all under the context of, on Sunday, remember, Carney released a video where he said Canada's ties to the U.S. have become weaknesses that must be corrected, pointing out that workers in Canada's auto, steel, and lumber industries remain under threat due to Trump's tariffs.
It's very interesting times. Everyone leaning into everything that each leader is saying here. Another Canadian airline, to other news here this morning, is making cuts, and this is because of the jump in energy costs. What are the details here?
Yes, so WestJet says it is cutting flight capacity due to the soaring price of jet fuel caused by the war in Iran. The Calgary-based airline says it has reduced capacity by about 1% in April, 3% in May, and nearly 6% in June. So WestJet says it hasn't eliminated any routes so far, but it is evaluating its summer schedule with an eye to possible cuts. So for now, the carrier has consolidated flights on some routes and shortened the travel period for seasonal service to several destinations. Now, Air Canada announced last week it is suspending 6 routes, citing fuel costs that make them unprofitable. So the war in the Middle East, which launched in late February, has caused an effective shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz, prompting massive spikes in oil prices and even bigger jumps for jet fuel. So jet fuel is at double its pre-war price, despite a shaky ceasefire.
And after 15 years, Tim Cook is stepping down as Apple's CEO. It's a job inherited from the late Steve Jobs. Who's he handing the reins to?
Well, the 65-year-old is handing these CEO duties over to Apple's head of hardware products, John Ternus. So the Apple veteran will take over on September 1st. Now, he has spent a quarter of a century and almost his entire career at Apple. He is currently the company's senior vice president of hardware engineering, which is behind Apple's most recognizable products such as the iPhone and Mac, as well as newer innovations like the Apple Vision Pro. So he played a major role in new product lines for the Mac, AirPods, and iPhone. Now, the promotion isn't much of a surprise. Ternus has been considered a CEO frontrunner for at least the last year, but he does have some big shoes to fill. Cook led the company to a $4 trillion market cap in a post-Steve Jobs era, and analysts say there will be a lot of pressure on Ternus to produce success out of the gates, especially on the AI front. And Cook isn't leaving the company. He's becoming Apple's executive chairman and will continue to steer the company's relationship with policymakers around the globe.
All right, Crystalie, thanks very much for today's report.
All right, thanks, Marcy.
Crystalie Ramlakan, part of our regular team, joining us every day at this time with business news from CBC. It is 6:44 a.m. Just saw the shot of our, overhead shot of downtown Winnipeg here. If you're watching the show on YouTube, looks gorgeous. The sun just shining between the buildings here. Coming up, it's going to stay up and shining. We have a mainly sunny day ahead. Calm winds. Yesterday was sure windy, but today that'll calm down rather, and a high of 17 degrees. Welcome to your Tuesday morning if you're just getting up and joining us. Well, next in the show, something else that might make you smile. The province, as you've been hearing in the news, says that the Manario Trail is going to be reopened this year. Roughly half of the 63-kilometer trail was destroyed by a massive wildfire last year. Now, CBC's Bartley Kivas spoke about this with the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, Mike Moyes.
Yeah, we recognize how important the Manario is to so many Manitobans, and so we're really excited to get it back up and running. I think a lot of Manitobans know that almost half of it got burnt and was substantially impacted by the wildfires last year, and so we're looking forward to working with the team, getting it up and running as soon as possible. We're taking a phased approach, but looking to open it up in stages, and hopefully to do that as soon as possible.
That bulletin memo suggests that the initial phase is just going to be kind of a rough reopening, and then later going to look at more infrastructure, maybe even potential rerouting. What could you say about that?
Yeah, we recognize that it's going to take some time to rebuild, but one of the things that we're really committed to is actually building back better. We want to have, by the third phase, which might take us into getting close to the end of the year, we want to actually make some enhancements to the trail. We recognize how popular it is. We know how much hiking and backcountry camping is to Manitobans. This is a prime spot, leading Manitobans through some of the most beautiful terrain, and so we want to make sure that we're not only getting it back to what it was, but actually making the enhancements so that people can enjoy it in the years to come.
That memo compares it to the West Coast Trail, which is a national park in BC, on Vancouver Island, and a couple of others. All of the ones it compares it to restrict the numbers of people that go and charge fees. Now, I'm not sitting here saying you have to charge fees. This isn't advocacy, but given the heavy use and the fact that, it had been a bit overrun prior to the fire. Are you looking at potentially reinstituting registration or orientation sessions so that people don't need to be evacuated from the middle of it, like those very popular trails?
We're actually going to take a different approach. I take your point about the popularity of the Manario, but we've actually been working with the Trails Association and the team at large in the department to come up with other opportunities for Manitobans, and I'm going to be really excited when we get to the point where we can announce those. But we know that there's more need out there for some backcountry camping, for some from long distance trails, and so we're going to be moving forward with those in the months and years to come.
So you're hinting at a plan to actually open up new backcountry distance routes in other parks per se, or is that what you're saying, or more in Whiteshell? Are you talking about Duck Mountain or Spruce Woods? Where are we talking here?
There's actually a whole variety of different options that we're currently looking at. We're really excited. We know Manitobans want to get out. It kind of started with COVID, with lots of people getting out into nature, spending more time out there, and the popularity just hasn't actually went back. And so we want to make sure that people have those opportunities. And so rather than putting a fee on something, rather than putting a registration on the Manario, let's do something else. Let's actually draw folks to other spots in the province. And I think it's going to be really exciting when we open up those spots.
So I'm not going to hold you to this because it's clearly an exploratory process here. So I'm not trying to catch you, but are you talking about elsewhere in the province, not just in Whiteshell?
Yeah, that's correct. So the Whiteshell, obviously one of our premier spots in our park system, but there's a lot of other spots that I think Manitobans broadly would be really impressed with, and we want to make sure that we're highlighting not just the Whiteshell, but spots across our province. And so looking forward to opening up some other opportunities for Manitobans.
Why they do the registration in at West Coast Trails, not just for the fees, but the fees do pay for some of the ranger services and when they got to evac people on the way out, because every year they do. And lately, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I don't have them back yet, but I do think that there have been more evacs. So it's a public safety thing. Are you concerned that like helicopters and float planes may have to are going in there to get people out, and the province has no means of recouping the funds for that?
You know, safety is a concern always for our government, and so we've had some discussions on like what are some safety precautions that we could take on that. It has less to do with the fee part of it. It has more to do with how do we make sure that we're keeping Manitobans safe, and so those conversations are ongoing, and we can continue to have them as we build back the Manario to what it was, and even better than that.
Just speaking with the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, Mike Moyes. You can read more in the story, by the way, about the reopening of the Manario Trail and the province's plans at cbc.ca/Manitoba. Time right now is 11 minutes to 7 o'clock, and next on CBC's Morning Show, Prime Minister Mark Carney wants to talk directly to Canadians. He started this weekend with a YouTube video.
I promise you, I will never sugarcoat our challenges. Instead, I will talk with you directly and regularly about our plan, why we're doing what we're doing, what's working, what isn't, and what we're going to do next.
In the nearly 10-minute address, Carney echoed points from his Davos speech. He reflected on the country's history. He talked about Canada's relationship with the United States. He said that those ties have become, quote, weaknesses that must be corrected. For a closer look at the Prime Minister's new way of messaging to Canadians, we've reached Ryan Tumulty. He's a political reporter with the Toronto Star. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I got to ask you, Ryan, I mean, as a federal political reporter, what did you think of Carney kind of skipping the media and going straight to the people?
Listen, never wild about it. I think the Parliamentary Press Gallery plays a very important role. We're older than the country. And certainly Mr. Carney's not the first prime minister to try to make an end run around us, even more so now in the digital age. I hope, and I'm reasonably confident he'll still find time for reporters in the gallery. But this is not a new tool. Lots of politicians have used it.
No, I mean, we can go back, right? Franklin D. Roosevelt's fireside chats, Winston Churchill, wartime radio addresses, and yes, Donald Trump's regular social media updates. I do wonder, though, whether or not why Carney would go in this direction in your estimation.
I think it was interesting because a lot of the message, even some of the lines verbatim, were the same as they were in his Davos speech. They were the same as in a couple of addresses he's given, his Liberal Convention speech last week. I think this video is a recognition that there are people who don't see those things. For one reason or another, they're not following the news. And so, I'm sure he is trying to reach a different audience here. And that's where the reach out is going. Obviously there are definitely Canadians who have spend a lot of time on YouTube, but don't follow the news regularly.
I guess as long as it's not a replacement for interacting with media would be the concern, and people might wonder why. And to me, it's because it's the questions, right? It's sort of the opportunity to ask the questions about what is said. That's what ends up getting missed, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think, listen, also, I'm sure that the Prime Minister wanted to get this across. The truth of the matter is that if he had given this address to a group of reporters, a lot of our questions would have been about other things. We would have been asking, for example, about the finance minister and this potential conflict with Alto. We would have been asking about how the Prime Minister intends to, proceed now that he has this majority, and if he has any concerns about how he got this majority. We've been asking about, potential for more floor crossers, or, as we're about to talk about the Alberta MOU that's still incomplete. So, I think talking to us always risks distracting from a message that politicians want to get across. But I think we're asking important questions that, he is potentially sidestepping here.
Let me ask you about the CUSMA free trade review deadline that's approaching then. July 1st is the date for that. What is the reality that Carney, you think, is preparing Canadians for when he uses language like the ties to the U.S. have become, quote, weaknesses?
Yeah, I think he is prepping us for the possibility that this is going to be a very tough negotiation. And I think all the signs are there, right? When Trump renegotiated NAFTA, which became CUSMA back in the first Trump administration, it was a very difficult negotiation. The president was kind of always threatening to walk away from the talks or enact some economic retribution. And I think you're seeing from the second Trump term that he's even more willing to do those sorts of things. He's being even more aggressive. He's already imposed, sweeping tariffs on a bunch of really critically important Canadian industries. So there's a lot at play here. And I think, the signal that the Prime Minister is trying to offer is that these negotiations are not going to be easy. And of course, they come within a time of economic turmoil. We've seen the huge spike in gas prices because of the war in Iran, which is filtering down through the economy in all kinds of different ways. So there's lots of issues at play here. And I think the Prime Minister was saying, 2026 is not going to be an easy year for Canada.
You alluded to the Alberta-Ottawa pipeline agreement. The Conservatives have, just to back up a step, have responded to what Carney's delivered here. But they're saying that they're tired of Carney's talk. They're looking for results. We're now 3 weeks past that key deadline for that pipeline agreement. What's holding that up?
Yeah, so, the things that were supposed to be agreed on by April 1st are a carbon price, an industrial carbon price, and the Pathways carbon capture project. I think it's best to think of those almost just as one thing, though, because a carbon capture project on the scale that we're talking about doesn't make sense unless, the carbon price is there and can be guaranteed and relied upon. So I think everything that is stalled in the agreement or that is still unresolved in the agreement, both sides say they're still talking and they're still making progress. But everything that is left in the agreement really has to come together at the same time. And even though it's not part of the April 1st deadline, I think Alberta is probably looking forward to the pipeline that they are seeking and saying that is crucial. And what's being decided now is crucial to the whole picture.
All right, Ryan, we'll leave it there. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's a Ryan Tumulty, political reporter with the Toronto Star. He joins us every Tuesday morning. We're talking about pipelines, and I can't help think about Earth Day tomorrow. So we are going to have a panel generationally of Earth Day, someone that's been an environmentalist in Manitoba for a very long time, and then someone younger, up and coming, that is trying to do advocacy work. So we would love your thoughts on Earth Day as well. I know a lot of people watching the budgets this year were disappointed and feel like the environment's sort of been cast aside given all the other challenges in the world, of course, war, energy prices, relations with the United States. But where's the Earth when it comes to the agenda? And how concerned are you about environmental targets and green targets being missed as the world continues to churn? So if you want to weigh in, you can call us at 788-3205, 788-3205. Also, you can weigh in on any of the stories you hear on the show on our Facebook page, which is actually my page. It acts as a show page during the show, and that is Marcy Marcusa on Facebook. And I'll share some responses from folks that have already written into me about Earth Day still ahead in today's show and then tomorrow as well. It's 3 minutes to 7 o'clock right now. Let's talk about what's coming up in the next hour of the program. Right now, people in Peguis First Nation are preparing for what could be another devastating flood season, and evacuations have started, but many people are still out of their community from past floods. We're going to talk to Edwin McCorster in the next hour. He has been away from home and living in Winnipeg since 2011. He'll talk about his experience. He, of course, from Peguis, so stay tuned. He'll say change is needed, but we're going to hear specifically what he's hoping for. Also, in the next hour of the show, statistics tell us that only slightly more than 30% of 18-year-olds are registered to vote in their first election. We're going to hear from Elections Canada about how they're reaching out directly to younger teens to get them on voter lists even before they're eligible to cast a ballot. So stay tuned. Right now, Heather Wells is in. She's got our news headlines, and she's here from our news center. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, evacuations, as you've mentioned, have started at Peguis First Nation. Expectant mothers and people with health issues are being moved first. But one person who does not plan to leave is Angela Flett. She says while it's good to see the community is so organized for this flood, she's still going to stay behind to monitor and protect her property. We'll hear more from her. And a Winnipeg-based garment manufacturer with more than 100-year history is entering a new era. Freed and Freed International has been sold to Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. Freed and Freed has created uniform pieces for organizations like the Canadian Armed Forces, RCMP, and Canada Post. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Commuter-wise, everything's looking pretty good out there. It's going to be a beautiful day if you're commuting here in southern Manitoba with a sunny high of 17 degrees in Winnipeg. It's mainly clear right now, and winds are calm. It's 2 degrees as we continue to climb. 788-3093 if you spot any problems, and stay with us because the latest in national and international news is next on World Report. 1 minute to 7 o'clock on a beautiful Tuesday morning from Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Stay here.
Today on The Current. But first, here's my take.
CNN's Fareed Zakaria has spent his career explaining the state of the world, and these days the state is one of turmoil. Fareed Zakaria on America's influence and opportunity for Canada and our increasingly unpredictable world, coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is CBC. This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Angie Seth.
I just started to hear people scream, and I looked up, and he was with his gun pointed in the air.
A Mexican vacation turned dangerous for Winsright Daniel Edwards. He was one of the people visiting a popular tourist site yesterday when a gunman opened fire. He survived, but one Canadian woman was killed. Another was injured, and so were 12 other people, most of them tourists. The CBC's Jorge Barrera is in Mexico with the latest.
Atop Mexico's Pyramid of the Moon, fear and violence. In video verified by CBC News, tourists watch as a lone gunman stalks around, pointing a weapon. Gunshots can be heard, while off to the side several people lay motionless. The shooter then runs up as tourists run down to get away. Daniel Edwards from Windsor, Ontario, watched it unfold.
He wasn't like a sniper looking down a scope into a crowd. He was someone just with a handgun, kind of just shooting almost sporadically.
Mexican authorities say a Canadian woman was killed and another Canadian injured. A woman in her 20s shot in the chest. Also injured are Russian, Dutch, U.S. and Colombian nationals, including a child, some with gunshot wounds, others from falls down the steep pyramid. Authorities say the gunman took his own life. They also found a knife and ammunition at the scene. The Teotihuacan Pyramids, only 50 kilometers northeast of Mexico City, saw 1.8 million international visitors last year alone. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum was quick to offer condolences, saying in a statement, "The incident deeply pains us," and adding that she was in contact with the Canadian embassy. Police haven't revealed the motive, but local reports say that the gunman had been shouting that tourists shouldn't be at the site, which belonged to the gods. Jorge Barrera, CBC News, Tulancingo, Mexico.
A crucial 2-week ceasefire between the United States and Iran is set to expire tomorrow. And although a new round of negotiations are planned to happen in Pakistan, it's still not clear whether they will actually take place. The CBC's Tom Perry is in Jerusalem for us. So, Tom, talk to us about the latest on this ceasefire.
Well, we've been seeing these images out of Pakistan, soldiers, security agents out on the streets of the capital. We're seeing billboards that read Islamabad talks. So the Pakistani government is preparing for the second round of talks. But right now, this second round seems to be in limbo. The Associated Press is reporting this morning that 2 regional officials have said that the United States and Iran have signaled they will hold a new round of talks, but Iranian state TV says no Iranian delegation has departed for Pakistan. We've seen a quote as well from an Iranian commander warning Tehran will respond decisively to any renewed hostility. So we're getting some mixed messages there. Mixed messages as well from the U.S. No word on when U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance might leave for Islamabad, but obviously the Iranians need to show up as well. So we'll see what happens. We've been seeing a lot of social media posts from Donald Trump on Iran. He was online this morning accusing Iran of violating the ceasefire deal numerous times. He put out a string of posts yesterday, really meandering messages. At one point he wrote, "I'm winning a war by a lot." He said that things were going very well. He called his Democratic opponents weak, pathetic traitors. He said polls showing a lack of support for the war in the U.S. were rigged. And he accused, I guess, what he calls the anti-America fake news media of rooting for Iran. So it was a big day online for the U.S. president. We just have to wait and see now what that means here in the real world for the future of these talks.
We'll be following closely. The CBC's Tom Perry for us in Jerusalem. Tom, thank you for this.
Thank you.
Amnesty International is criticizing Canada in its latest report on the state of the world's human rights. The organization is repeating concerns expressed last fall about a regression on human rights, Indigenous rights in particular, under Prime Minister Mark Carney. The CBC's Brett Forster has the details.
So that's a major concern for us.
Amnesty International is concerned Canada is backsliding. In its annual Global Human Rights Report released Monday, the organization says new laws fast-tracking major projects have put Indigenous rights at risk. Amnesty Canada Secretary General Ketya Nivyabandi explains.
We are finding, particularly when it relates to Indigenous rights, that we are stepping back. We're rolling back on Indigenous rights.
The Human Rights Monitor is singling out Prime Minister Mark Carney's Building Canada Act and similar laws in Ontario and BC. Amnesty says those bills threatened Indigenous peoples' right to self-determination as Canada expanded resource extraction in their territories without their consent, echoing what leaders like National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak have been saying for months.
Chiefs have made it very clear that First Nations consent for major projects is not optional.
The Assembly of First Nations says it plans to raise the situation in BC at the United Nations this week. The BC government sparked controversy after proposing to suspend parts of its law implementing the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
Canada will only be strong if it is indeed strong on its values and strong on human rights.
Federally, Nivyabandi warns the Liberals not to let human rights take a back seat as they boost defense spending and pursue economic expansion. The federal government did not immediately return a request for comment. Brett Forster, CBC News, Ottawa.
The future is uncertain for the dozens of whales and dolphins circling the tanks at Marineland in Niagara Falls, Ontario. The permanently closed amusement park plans to move the animals to the United States, but CBC News has learned Marineland is requesting a loan of millions of dollars in public funds to pay for it. Carly Thomas reports.
Since the once popular theme park and zoo, Marineland, was permanently closed last year, its 30 belugas and 4 dolphins have been living under the threat of euthanasia. Now, a senior government source tells CBC News that Marineland is requesting $10 to $20 million in a federal loan to move the animals to aquariums in the U.S.
This isn't Amazon Prime type delivery.
The move will be costly and complicated, says Andrew Treitz, director of the Marine Mammal Research Unit at the University of British Columbia.
You're involving all sorts of different professions. You're involving veterinarians, you're involving animal trainers, you're involving truck drivers. You've got people at the other end, too, that'll be receiving the whale.
The park received federal approval in January to export the animals. At the time, Minister of Fisheries and Oceans Joanne Thompson said the approval had 2 conditions.
The health of the belugas and dolphins is assessed by an accredited veterinarian, and then also the transportation plan.
But a government source says a lack of financial transparency and transport plan from Marineland is putting that deal at risk. Marineland said in a statement it would not comment on rumors or speculation, but the logistical and financial requirements for transporting 30 whales are significant, and that they continue to explore all potential avenues for support, including discussions with the government regarding the process. Carly Thomas, CBC News, Toronto.
And finally, for us, some Canadian farmers are converting parts of their land into natural ecosystems. They want to be part of Prime Minister Mark Carney's 30 by 30 plan. The government's strategy aims to protect 30% of Canada's land and oceans by 2030. And as Stu Mills reports, conservation projects on private farmland could play a big role.
Today, we're launching a Force of Nature, Canada's strategy to protect nature.
Much of the excitement around Mark Carney's nature protection strategy centered on the 2 new national parks pledged for Canada's north.
It's a good day to be a polar bear in Canada.
But in the fine print, potentially some good news for the lowly beasts too.
These cattle are outside year-round, and we wanted a way to manage the manure runoff.
At her small beef farm near Winchester, Ontario, Jackie Kelly Pemberton constructed a wetland. Just like a natural one, it's got bulrushes, cattails, and ponds filtering the barnyard water before it flows past her property line toward the South Nation and ultimately to the Ottawa River.
Water has no boundaries, so fences don't hold it in, and water quality has always been important to me.
Expertise and money for the Farmyard Wetland Project came from a national charity called ALICE, and ALICE President Jordan Sinclair says nature-based farmland projects like this one could put thousands of hectares toward Carney's targets.
We're not looking at converting productive acres of the farm. We're looking at those edge of field projects where, the farmer's not making money anyway.
Carney has signaled a readiness to lean on alternative approaches, even private partnerships, to get to his 2030 conservation targets. For farmers like Kelly Pemberton, the hope is that Canada's nature strategy won't just look to the far north, but to the edges of the fields right in her own backyard. Stu Mills, CBC News, Winchester.
And that's the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Angie Seth. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday, and it's 2 degrees in Winnipeg right now. Nice clear sky with a warm spot in the province. If you're in southern Manitoba, you're going to be smiling ear to ear, I think, when you hear the forecast. Now, I know that this forecast is lovely for those of us in cities where we are protected from flooding. We also know, though, that there's big challenges with flooding, especially in Peguis First Nation. So hopefully this warmth isn't going to be too much of a detriment to what's happening there. This hour on the show, we have an interesting story to tell you about. In 2011, Edwin McCorrister had to leave Peguis First Nation because of flood damage, and he never got to return home. Wrap your head around that. 15 years later, he is out of his home still, and he's watching his community prepare for yet another devastating flood. We're going to talk to him coming up this hour live on the show. Also, this hour on the show, we're going to learn more about how a community land trust works. The West Broadway neighborhood is looking ahead at trying this model in Winnipeg. We're going to take you to Ottawa, where they already do this. So stay tuned. We're going to get lessons from them. Right now, let's go to our news center. Heather Wells has other stories and headlines developing today. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, yes, that flood threat now forcing some people in Peguis out of their community. Those who have health issues or are pregnant are getting top priority. Crews are still busy protecting properties. Angela Flett says even though her community is more organized this year, she will not be with those who are leaving. Flett says when the flooding starts, she's staying behind to monitor and protect her property. We'll hear more from her. And the scales of justice have ruled in favor of a sport fisher who challenged his eastern Manitoba municipality in court. The RM of Alexander banned Pinawa Bay's Aaron Weeb from attending its council meetings for 3 years. Weeb took that to the Court of King's Bench. We're going to hear about the ruling in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
It is time now to get into this forecast. Abby Adeyemi has your details. It's,
Well, Marcy, more like a spring contrast today. While the north remains quite cool and we're still seeing light snow towards Churchill this morning and some breezy conditions, those dangerous wind chills we dealt with like last week up north seems to be subsiding in that part of the province, but we're still seeing snow there. Down south, the story is all about the warmth and the double digits we'll be getting to today. For Winnipeg, we're starting the day around 2 degrees at the Forks, 0 and above around the airport area. Sunny skies. We're heading to a beautiful spring high of 17 degrees today. Notice some gusty southern winds will be coming your way. That would speed up to about 50 kilometers by the afternoon period. It's going to stay mild tonight, and then tomorrow even warmer. I'm looking at something in the range of the 20s tomorrow. Across southern regions between -2 and -5. Brandon looking for a high of 21 today, while up north we're seeing those, still shaking off that winter grip in the northern part of the province. Temperatures just between -5 and -9. But for today, Winnipeg, we're warming up to 17 degrees. Current temperatures around 2 degrees at the Forks.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's happening with your morning commute. Corey Funk.
Yeah, quiet commute overall. Haven't heard of any major issues out there, but if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you can give me a call. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, this is very interesting. Up first this half hour, if you have a teenager in your life, they may have recently received an envelope in the mail from Elections Canada, even though they're too young to vote. According to Elections Canada, younger people are far less likely to vote than older Canadians. So the Register of Future Electors was developed. This is a voter registration program for teens aged 14 to 17. It's now been in place for a couple of years, but this month they started reaching out to teens directly by mail. Matthew McKenna is with Elections Canada and joins us now from Ottawa. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So why did you guys start this registration program, when you thought this was needed?
Sure. Yeah. So the Register of Future Electors is a few years old now. Originally, it came as a request from Parliament. And so, upon that request, we set up the register, but it's only within the last 6 months or so that we've enabled the ability for young people to go online and register online the same way that their moms and dads would be able to do. So that's a lot more convenient, especially, for young folks to be able to do it from their phone or that sort of thing.
What are some of the statistics when it comes to understanding younger voters in Canada and the challenge?
Well, we do know, and we've known for quite a while, that young people do face particular barriers to the voting process. That's been the case for quite some time, and that's as a result of various factors, whether it's just a little bit less familiarity with the voting process. Sometimes they have difficulty getting the identification that they need to vote. So there's a few things that go into it. But what's neat about the register and about early participation overall is there's a bunch of research that shows that, the earlier that you have engagement with the electoral process, whether that's going with mom and dad to the polls or, joining the Register of Future Electors, the more likely you are to continue to engage in the voting process throughout the course of your life. So it's a habit-forming activity. And that's, one of the nice things about this initiative.
One of the stats I saw was as of November 2023, the annual list of electors estimated about 69% of Canadians aged 18 to 24 were on the register of electors, which compared to 95.5% of the population as a whole. And that in 18-year-olds in their first election, only 31% were registered to vote. Does that sound right to you? It's low, right?
That sounds about right, and it is a little bit low. So that's, another perk of this early registration is it means, if you're 14 to 17 and you're an eligible elector, you can get on the register, and then as soon as you turn 18, you're automatically on that national register of electors, and it makes it that much easier to be able to vote. It means that if an election's called after you turn 18, you'll get that voter information card in the mail, so another piece of mail from Elections Canada, and that will tell you exactly where you need to go to vote and give you some other information about the process.
So young people are mailed directly information about this, and there's a QR code. Can you tell us a little bit about about that?
Sure. Yeah. So starting in about the end of May, we mailed out well over 100,000 of these cards to young electors in that bracket, and they can rest assured that it does come from us. I know some people, rightly so, might get worried that something like that might not be real. But yes, they can scan the QR code on the card, or they can visit the URL on the card, and that'll get them started registering to vote. They'll need to prove their identity and address. So for many of them, that'll be just a driver's license if they have it, but there's a long list of pieces of ID that they can use, and they can get themselves on the register.
What's the response been like so far?
It's been pretty decent so far. Of that 100,000 plus letters that we sent back, I think we've had well over 8,000 replies, which is, pretty significant. To put it in context, since January, I think there's been about 40,000 new additions to the register. So that's a pretty big chunk of that set of new registrations.
How did Elections Canada get the information on the voters, like with the addresses to send them the invitation, given that this is between, young people between 14 and 17?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, for a long time, Elections Canada's had some data sharing agreements with a few different bodies. We share information with the provincial election management body, so Elections Manitoba for folks in Manitoba, and also from driver's licensing bureaus. So we get a lot of information from those groups, and that's where the bulk of this information comes from. We can identify people who are in that age bracket and reach out to them.
Got it. We have a provincial election that is likely before the federal election is going to happen. Does the information get shared with Elections Manitoba as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. Elections Manitoba is one of the election management bodies that we share information with. And Elections Manitoba has their own register of future electors as well. So, if you do register with Elections Canada's version, that information will eventually be shared with Elections Manitoba, which might make life easier registering there. But for folks that aren't aware, they might want to check out Elections Manitoba's website as well and get themselves registered there.
If someone in the age group that we're talking about has not received, an invitation by letter or one of these letters, how can they register to vote? How can they, show their interest?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you don't need the letter to be able to register. You can visit elections.ca/register, and you can go through the steps there. So any Canadian who's eligible, who's within that 14 to 17 bracket, can do that at any time. The letter is really just meant to sort of encourage participation and to get the word out about the program. And we do see that it's had an impact. But anybody can visit elections.ca and go through the process.
All right. Thank you very much, Matthew. Anything to add I haven't asked you about that's important, you think?
I think we covered it all. Definitely encourage anybody who got the letter to consider registering. I know that young people, can sometimes want to express a little bit of extra diligence when it comes to getting pieces of mail or exploring information about the electoral process. That's important. That's something that we encourage for sure. So anybody that has doubts and wants to sort of verify, just like they would with any information about the electoral process, can visit elections.ca. They'll see a lot more information. We've got a good FAQ about the program and how it works. So anybody with questions, either get in touch or visit elections.ca.
Super. Thanks for your time live this morning. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for having me. Take
It's
care.
Matthew McKenna with us live with Elections Canada. If you're aged 14 to 17 and you want to register, as he just mentioned, check out elections.ca/future-electors. And to be clear here, it's interesting because we're so used to saying in case we have a federal election or we've poised it, we may have a federal election. But now that the Liberal government has secured a majority, we know that we will for certain be going to the polls in a civic election this fall here in Winnipeg. And we will go to the polls next fall in a provincial election, both of those coming ahead of the next time we vote federally.
The puck may have dropped on the playoffs, but the news doesn't stop for hockey. I'm Brittany Greenslade, host of CBC Winnipeg News at 6. To get your local news, stream CBC Winnipeg News at 6 24/7 on CBC Gem, the CBC News app, and selected streaming platforms. CBC Winnipeg News at 6, your local news on your favorite streaming device.
7:21 a.m. is the time right now. We have morning sports, speaking of hockey, coming up in a few minutes from now. Well, it's beautiful outside, so we can't resist playing this tune. This is Winnipeg's own alt-pop dream weaver, Shea Wolf, and Sunny Days.
Sunny days, sunny days. Come find me, sunny days. Sweet honey child, the rain has come and it's poured. Sweet honey child,
myself and sunny days. And yeah, we are making a bit of a turn today. For the next couple of days in southern Manitoba, it's going to be really warm and sunny. So 17 is our temperature today in Winnipeg that's forecast. Right now we're sitting mainly clear with a nice sky and 2 degrees. We have a low tonight of 5 degrees and tomorrow sunny and a high of 21 degrees. So besides the fact that we don't want too fast of a melt, I think a lot of people are going to be welcoming this lovely weather across southern Manitoba. Let's get to morning sports now. 7:25, you're with Information Radio here on CBC The Morning Show, and Scott Regier joins us with his update. Good morning.
Hey there, Marcy.
So let's start with the NHL playoffs. Canadian teams met with different fortunes last night.
Yeah, they did. So we'll start with the good news. Edmonton beat Anaheim in the opening game of their series, although it didn't come easily. The Ducks led for most of this game, but Jason Dickinson tied it in the third, and then Kasperi Kapanen, with a minute and change left on the clock, got the winner. The Oilers really needed the depth scoring since Connor McDavid went without a point last night. So this was the first time all season long Edmonton's won when McDavid hasn't been on the score sheet. That series will resume tomorrow night. Meanwhile, despite goalie Linus Ullmark's best efforts, Marcy, Ottawa fell in double overtime to Carolina. And if you haven't seen the glove save that Ullmark made on Taylor Hall with the net wide open, check it out. It is one of the best you will ever see. All that said, Ottawa now trails the series 2-0. A deficit their captain, Brady Tkachuk, says is surmountable.
I mean, the confidence and the belief is still the highest it could possibly get. We've shown we can hang in there. Of course, we haven't liked both the results, but the confidence and the belief that I have in my teammates and we have in each other is as high as it's ever been.
So the series resumes Thursday in the nation's capital. Meanwhile, we have Montreal looking to go up 2-0 on Tampa Bay this evening. And in the PWHL, Montreal can clinch the title tonight if they beat Vancouver. And Toronto looking to get that final playoff spot with a couple of games remaining in the regular season. If they beat New York tonight, the Scepters will be in that playoff spot.
Hopefully they won't be lame games.
Well said.
Meantime, the Jets, always bittersweet, right? When you don't make the playoffs, they had their end-of-season press conference yesterday. What stood out for you, Scott?
Well, that the coach, Scott Arniel, feels Connor Hellebuck's pain. For those who haven't been following the Jets over the last week, Hellebuck had some pretty interesting comments about how this lost season went, saying it was unacceptable. No one wants to be part of a season like this. And Hellebuck questioned whether the team will be able to return to the Stanley Cup contention anyway for the Cup anytime soon. So those are some pretty alarming comments from a guy many consider the best goaltender on the planet. So with that as the backdrop, here's what Arniel had to say about Connor Hellebuck.
He wants to win a Stanley Cup, as do everybody in that room. And so for me, we got to help him do this. We took a deep breath, and a whole bunch of teams in the league went right by us. And so this is us recognizing it, him recognizing it, and he's not alone. Everybody, there's frustration from everybody, and it should be, because we need to be playing at this time of year.
There you are. Something to think on this long off season, the future of Connor Hellebuck.
Let's end with basketball. Another tough loss for the Raptors.
Yeah, a tough, Marcy, since Toronto was so much more competitive than they were in their playoff opener in Cleveland. The Raptors fought the Cavaliers last night tooth and nail before eventually falling by 10 points. Now, it would have helped if Brandon Ingram played a bigger part in things. Instead, it was Ingram, many analysts believe, his worst game of the season. He netted just 7 points. His teammate R.J. Barrett was quick to come to his defense.
He's got us here, man. Like, the whole season, he's been amazing for us. He's been an all-star. So just told him to stay in it, keep his head in it, that we need him, because, when I have my off nights, he's right there to pick me up, so.
A good teammate, R.J. Barrett there, who has plenty of others he could ask to take a good look in the mirror. Toronto combined last night, Marcy, for 22 turnovers, so that's about double what they would normally have. Much of that, no doubt, down to the pressure of the playoffs, and this being a very young team. Many of them are in the playoffs for the very first time, so they'll have to sort it out as they head home for Game 3 on Thursday. Quick baseball note, Blue Jays, on the strength of a 12-strikeout gem by Dylan Cease, beat the Angels last night. And if there's one other sports highlight to check out, Cubs-Phillies at Wrigley Field, a Canada Goose swoops into left field and takes over the joint.
Oh, yeah?
worth checking out. And at Wrigley, they're not trying to like shoo the birds away. In fact, there's a goose where they've cordoned off seats in center field where one goose has taken over a planter.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to see this now. Okay, I have a lot.
Respect the waterfall. I like it.
We have all kinds of things to Google. Okay, the save, the goose. All right,
There you go.
and some sports too. Thanks, Scott.
You bet.
Scott Ricker with Morning Sports. Coming up on the show right after our news here, especially when it comes to the cost of housing, the cost of living is astronomical for a lot of folks. So that has led a Winnipeg neighborhood to try to create a community land trust. We reported on that last week in Winnipeg. Today we're going to take you to Ottawa after the news because they've already done this model there. They're already operating it. So we'll find out how that works and if we can learn any lessons after your news from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. It is going to be a spectacular day. We're at 2 degrees right now, a high of 17 with plenty of sunshine. Well, evacuations have started at Peguis First Nation. Expecting mothers and people with health issues are being moved first. Crews are still working, busy protecting homes.
Oh, that's not very easy, though.
Angela Flett's cousin lives very close to the river. 4 crews used 15 truckloads of sand to build a dike. Flett says the house is still being renovated from the last flood 4 years ago. Her house across the road already has a dike. Flett says it is good to see the community so organized this time, but she has no plans to leave.
But I know they are set up down at the multiplex, but like in the past flood, when we had the flood of 2022, we never evacuated. We stayed and watched our homes because who else is going to watch them? We didn't want to lose them.
Flett says 4 years ago, her mother stayed behind to monitor sump pumps. The chief of Broken Head First Nation says one day athletes and workers will wear clothing that says Made in Treaty 1. Chief Gordon Bluesky says his First Nation has purchased the century-old manufacturer Freed and Freed International. He wants to make the manufacturer's procurement opportunities with organizations like Canada's Armed Forces. He wants to take those to even greater heights.
I have nothing but the best intentions on acquiring a company like this and growing it to where 100 years from now, ideally 100 years from now, our children and grandchildren will understand the focus that we had.
Freed and Freed has also done work with others, including the RCMP, Canada Post, and Canadian Olympic Committee. Broken Head and Freed are keeping the financial details of this sale private. A judge has told an eastern Manitoba municipality it cannot ban a resident it determines was disruptive from attending council meetings. The RM of Alexander imposed a pair of 3-year bans on Pinawa Bay resident Aaron Wiebe, preventing him from going to council meetings in St. George. Wiebe took the issue to the Court of King's Bench, which ruled the municipality has no authority to enact a blanket ban. Wiebe says he is pleased, but wishes the RM would make council meetings more accessible for everyone.
We had a victory in this case, but I would be far happier to hear that they were going back to providing recordings of meetings and offering virtual attendance, because those were the big issues from before this even happened.
The judge ruled council can remove people from meetings when they are disruptive, but it can't prevent them from attending future meetings. CBC has reached out to the RM for comment. The province expects to reopen the Manario Trail this summer after all. Wildfires in 2025 burned about half the distance hiking trail in Whiteshell Provincial Park. Early last week, the province said it wasn't sure when it would reopen. Now, Manitoba Park says volunteers will help clear the trail and make it passable this summer. Heavier machinery will come in this fall to clear larger trees, followed by new signage, benches, and toilets next year. Mike Moyes is Manitoba's Environment Minister.
We want to make sure that we're not only getting it back to what it was, but actually making the enhancements so that people can enjoy it in the years to come.
Moyes says the province is also working on creating new distance hiking trails in other parks to take the pressure off Manario. One of Mexico's most popular tourist destinations is the site of tragedy. A mass shooting Monday killed one Canadian woman and injured 13 more, including a second Canadian woman. It happened at the historic pyramids just outside Mexico City. The gunman eventually killed himself. The president of Mexico is expressing her condolences and says she is in touch with the Canadian embassy. Today marks what would have been Queen Elizabeth's 100th birthday, and her son King Charles is commemorating her legacy with a video message.
As a young Princess Elizabeth put it in her first ever public broadcast, aged just 14, we can each play our part to make the world of tomorrow a better and happier place. It is a belief which I share with all my heart.
Charles calling on people to set their differences aside and work towards a peaceful, hopeful tomorrow. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. A renowned ballet company is on the road. The Royal Winnipeg Ballet is visiting rural and northern communities this week. The company's On the Edge tour has gone through southern Manitoba, and it wraps up with several dates in the north. Dancers from the RWB's student program are performing excerpts from A Midsummer Night's Dream and Swan Lake. Director Vanessa Leonard says the dances aren't just the featured performers, they're also setting up the shows.
We bring our entire stage with us. We perform in theaters, but also in gymnasiums. So we actually set up our own floor. We set up our own lights and music and sound, and of course all of the costumes, and all of it fits onto one bus.
And that tour ends in Kenora with a pair of performances this Friday. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about the weather, Mr. Abbey.
Yes, Marcy, a warming trend in the southern parts of the province. However, we're still tracking those unsettled and snowy conditions across the north. While the south will be enjoying lots of sunshine today and double-digit highs, we should be seeing a mix of freezing rain and a mix of snow up north. Forecast for Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region brings mainly sunny skies with windy southern gusts this morning, sometime the afternoon rather. Temperatures near 6 degrees. It's currently 2 at the Forks, 0 at the airport. Sunny conditions out there. We're expecting a high of 17 today, and we dropped about 5 overnight before we climb back to that 21. Across the south, similar conditions. Up north, we're looking at temperatures between 1 and -12 with light snow moving through. Winnipeg right now, 2 degrees, warming to 17.
Should be a beautiful day to commute if you're active commuting. If you're running, you got a lot of pavement. If you are biking, you've got a lot of pavement. Anything else, Corey?
No, it's been really quiet overall. But if you are walking, biking, driving, let me know. I will tell you that the river trail along from the ledge to the fork still underwater, and so just careful if you are going to be by the river doing anything like that, because those waters are high. You can give me a call though if you see anything else going on. That number to call 204-788-3093.
Thank you, Corey Funk.
Thank you.
Well, the Winnipeg neighborhood is taking action to make housing more affordable. As you might have heard last week on CBC, West Broadway is getting Winnipeg's only community land trust. So that means that an existing housing is purchased and it's run by the community instead of a landlord in the private sector. Stephen Hodges is the housing coordinator for West Broadway Community Organization, and he spoke with guest host Julie Buckingham to bring up to speed on Friday.
The main kind of idea behind it is trying to create a really strong kind of community ownership governance structure that can take care of something for long term. For it to succeed, there has to be community ownership, and there has to be a sense of involvement and, stable long-term governance.
So if people are maybe familiar with a co-op or not-for-profit housing, so nobody's going to get rich off of this. We want to just maintain the buildings and keep things affordable.
Yeah, that's right. It's really about stability. And the co-ops and nonprofit models are a really good example for how to think about this. I think a community land trust in many ways takes pieces of both of those models and combines it.
So that was housing coordinator for West Broadway Community Organization in Winnipeg, Stephen Hodges, speaking with CBC's Julie Buckingham. As residents here of West Broadway prepare for the next steps in their mission, we thought we'd look at a community in Ontario that's already done this model. Mike Bilthouse is the executive director of Ottawa Community Land Trust, and I spoke with him at 7.
Good morning.
So how many apartment buildings does your trust have now?
So we have closed on 2 apartment buildings, and we are currently in the process of closing or acquiring 2 more. So hopefully by the end of the spring, we'll have 4 apartment buildings.
Great. Now, you guys started in 2021. Um, what have you learned that we might, learn from about operating these things that you're like, oh, we didn't anticipate that?
Well, I think what we have realized is that the community is behind this in a really big way, and so we can talk about how is it that we go about acquiring buildings as a community organization, and we've looked to community as a big part of that, and so community investment is one way in which we raise capital, but we also we have volunteers involved in our asset management processes, in our communications, and the community has really rallied around this as a new way for folks to be engaged in contributing to a housing solution. So I think maybe it's funny to say, but don't underestimate. And I have no reason to believe that folks with West Broadway are doing that, but don't underestimate the community, right? I think we can do some pretty powerful things when we come together.
So tell me a little bit more about acquiring properties, and then also about managing properties, because I'm intensely curious about how you decide who's going to be the quote unquote landlord.
Yeah, so we acquire our properties through, I guess, blending capital from a couple of different sources. We don't really have a public program where we draw on government funds, but in our first couple of properties, we had some supportive municipal councilors, and so they were able to direct some municipal grants to us. We had a small philanthropic contribution. We certainly work with a traditional lender on mortgage products and bridge loans. But as I mentioned earlier, we also go to the community through raising community bonds or housing forever bonds. And so these are like short-term investments that folks can make in the land trust, and then we pool that capital to make our acquisitions. Once we own a building, we're pretty clear in we really want to stay in our lane. We have amazing nonprofits and co-ops and other organizations in Ottawa that do operate buildings. They know their tenants. They know what their tenants or their clients need. Some of them are serving women or families or newcomers. And so our role really is to, how do we raise the capital, try to acquire and preserve the buildings under community ownership, and then make them available to organizations. So in response to your question, a couple of our buildings are being managed by a community-based property manager who is very familiar with the needs of affordable housing in Ottawa. One of the buildings that we're trying to close on right now, once we acquire that building, we're going to lease it to another nonprofit charitable organization. In this case, they're called Matthew House Ottawa. They provide housing for refugees and asylum claimants. They would like to grow. They have needs. They don't necessarily need to own their properties. Their specialty is the services that they provide. And so our hope is to lease the building to them so that they can do what they do well, and so that we can actually grow a larger portfolio, right? If we own a number of buildings that are utilized by different organizations, we at least have the benefit of scale in one kind of community housing portfolio.
How important is it to have different streams of funding, as you've outlined?
I think it's really important. I mean, in each of our 4 acquisitions, assuming that we are able to close on these next 2, that capital mix has looked a little bit different. A mortgage is available for these kinds of buildings, but of course, a lender will only give a mortgage based on what kind of revenue we might expect. And when we're providing affordable housing, those rents and that revenue might be somewhat limited. So if we can raise any kind of free capital, whether that's philanthropy or a public program like a municipal or a provincial or a federal grant, that can really help keep our rents down, because the less debt that we have to service on the property, obviously the more affordable those rents are. So in each of our properties, in each of our acquisitions so far, that mix has looked a little bit different. In one of the buildings that we are currently working to acquire, it's 31 units. We have no public capital coming into this building and no philanthropic capital. And so we are able to, and we've mapped this out in our pro forma and our financial models, we're able to buy it with community investors and with our lender at the bank. In another one of our buildings, the one I mentioned where we hope to lease that to an organization that provides housing for refugees, we know that their rents are capped, right? We know that their ability to pay has a certain limit to it. And so on that property, we are looking to raise a little bit of philanthropic capital or some government grants so that we have less debt to service and we can keep those rents a little bit lower. So, I guess one could think about it as the affordability of the rents in each of our buildings may vary dependent on what kind of capital went into that acquisition.
Got it. What is affordable in Ottawa? We're not in the same housing market, so in some ways people really have to keep that in mind, but I'm wondering how much a rental unit might go for when you talk about an affordable rent.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great question, right? And affordability, of course, is dependent on income of a household. But right now, I mean, if you were in Ottawa and you were looking for a one-bedroom apartment, and you had, you were looking at the listings and all the available apartments, an average for a one-bedroom would be around, 1,900, maybe getting close to 2,000. For a two-bedroom, you'd be getting close to 2,500. So affordability is, maybe it's 70% of that, maybe it's 80% of that. The buildings that we buy are usually tenanted, and one of the things that draws us to them is that those rents are affordable. So, in the first building that we bought, the rents were about 60% of what that average was in the city. And our goal is to, let those tenants stay at those rates, and then when those units turn over, to keep those units at least well below what the market average is. So that too will vary from one building to another, but the goal is below the average.
And what's the reaction from tenants when they see that that affordable rent? And I'm going to ask you two questions and just let you share. What kind of impact has it had overall in Ottawa?
I think that, when we bought our first building, a couple of the tenants, one of their first questions to us when they learned that we were the new owner of their apartment building was, well, when will I have to move out? Because, I think the expectation is that often when a new owner acquires an apartment building, their desire is to maximize the rental income on that, right? And often within Canada, and I suspect this is in cities across the country, real estate is seen as an investment. And it's an investment portfolio. And so when we bought that first building and we told our residents, no, you're welcome to stay and we will honor the rents that you're paying now, subject to, a provincial kind of rent increase per year. I think that caught folks by surprise. And of course, that was really exciting. I know one of our tenants said, wow, I just had a child with my partner and we are looking to kind of settle in this neighborhood. So this will allow us to do that. And I think that, at a citywide level, 4 buildings in a city the size of 1 million people is one small part. But I think we are demonstrating, we're developing some proof points that by working together as a community and leveraging some new tools, we can actually, make a dent in this challenge where we're losing so much affordable housing. Because that's really the challenge here in Ottawa.
It's the challenge here in Winnipeg as well. So we really appreciate hearing your experience with this. Thank you so much for being with us on CBC.
Thanks for your interest.
That is Mike Bildhaus. I spoke with him at 7 o'clock about what they're doing in Ottawa with an idea that's new to Winnipeg. But as you heard, they've been operating 4 different properties in Ottawa. They're hoping actually to secure 4 of them under community land trust, a community land trust model. And in Winnipeg, they're interested in doing this in the West Broadway neighborhood. If you want to read more about that article, we reported on it last week. You can go to our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. Time right now is 13 minutes to 8 o'clock. And coming up after 8, if you love dogs, you want to be listening to our show because there's a brand new TV show starring Blue Bombers all-star Brady Oliveira, and they're shining a light on the high-stakes stories of dog rescues. Now, he and his co-host Alex, along with a couple of furry friends, are going to join us in the studio. You might have already seen their show on CBC Gem. It's streaming now called Must Love Dogs, but we're going to talk to them live here in our studio coming up after 8. It is right now 2 degrees in Winnipeg. Sky is mainly clear. It's calm in terms of the wind condition. Man, it was windy yesterday. Today, our high is 17 degrees, and we've got lots of sunshine ahead. Well, let's build on what's happening in the news this morning. As you've been hearing from Heather Wells, evacuations have now started in Peguis First Nation, where the community has been preparing for a potential devastating flood. Again. In some cases, families are leaving their homes not knowing when they'll be able to return to Peguis, and it's a feeling that Edwin McCorster knows really well. He and his family have been evacuated from Peguis First Nation since 2011. Flooding in 2009 and 2011 caused mold that made their home inhabitable. So he's been living in Winnipeg since he was first evacuated, and he joins us in studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
And he's also brought, thanks for coming in, I appreciate it. And he's also brought with him his grandson. So Colby Chartrand McCorster is here. Hi, Colby.
Hi.
So how old are you?
I'm 17.
17. So had you been going to school in Peguis up to, how old were you?
I'm grade 4.
Grade 4.
Yeah.
And so the rest of your time's been in Winnipeg.
Yes.
Yeah. How hard was that? Like when you think back, having to leave because of flooding and, where you're from and your friends in Peguis?
It was very difficult because I had to come to a new environment and a whole different school where I had to make new friends and all of that. It wasn't really ideal, but it was what I had to do, so it wasn't bad.
Yeah. So all of your schooling then has been continuous here in Winnipeg since then.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're 17. What school are you going to now?
I'm going to Maples Collegiate.
Okay. Do you graduate this year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what you're hoping to do after grad?
No, but I'm going to U of M next year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's nice to have a young person's perspective. I also know that when you work you've worked as a teacher, you know, in your life and a principal in Peguis. Let's stay with the youth thing here. What's it like to be evacuated every year or every 2 years? We looked at the stats, and for the kids and for the teachers trying to continue the education.
Oh, it's challenging, that's for sure. People have to, they want their children to go to school. They want, because we have a nice, beautiful school out there. We have great teachers and everything else that goes with operating an education system. And for them to lose that opportunity to be in class, to be with their classmates, to be learning all the different subject areas that they have, it makes it very hard on families. And when they move into the city or get evacuated from the city, there's lots of things that take place. When Colby first moved into Winnipeg here, it was challenging to get places because they had us in hotels, and we were in hotels for probably 8 or 9 months, something like that. And because they didn't have a physical address, they were not allowed to enroll in any schools in Winnipeg because they didn't have a physical address, which they said is required. So they weren't. You can go as a guest or a visitor or enroll in one, and think of it. You had many people evacuated and staying in hotels with children, and
there's all kinds of trickle down effects you wouldn't even think about.
Yeah, and then to get homework packages for people, I think that that's challenging in itself also.
Do you miss Peguis, Colby? What's it like for you now? You've been here for a long time.
I kind of adapted to Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I feel like I got distant with the community though. Like, I don't really know much people, and not many people know me. So yeah, just used to Winnipeg now.
Which makes sense for you. Like, you've been here since grade 4. What's it like though for you to hear that as his grandfather? That's a natural thing that would happen, but he's not knowing that your community.
Yeah, it's disappointing. That's for sure. That he doesn't get to integrate with our families back home. He comes from a large family, lots of cousins, aunts, uncles.
It's such a disconnection for everyone, right? You guys have been displaced so many times. So your home flooded, Edwin, in 2009 and 2011. What was it, the first few months you were evacuated? What was that even like for you, if you think about that time?
Well, they put us into different hotels. We stayed in, oh gosh, how many hotels? Because if they were booked on the weekend, they would have to move us to another hotel, and if that hotel was booked for another weekend, then we were moved to another hotel. So there's lots of movement, and you'd get to stay in different places, and then it is also challenging for when it comes to doing things for people, for them to do recreation, to do anything in the hotel. Security didn't like people walking around in the hotel without parents. And if you're in the country, right, you could play in your yard, you can do lots of things outside. But when you're confined to a hotel room, well, you got your hotel hallways, and
it's a completely different thing. Yeah. How does it feel for you? You've been away from home for so long. Does Winnipeg feel like home to you now?
No. Winnipeg is Winnipeg, and this is just a huge inconvenience of being away from home. I think that home is home, and that's where you would like to be,
Tell us why you haven't been able to go back to Peguis. Is it the mold issues with your home, or what's been the real sticking point for your family?
Well, for us, our home was had mold in it, and I guess it probably happened in 2009 when we first flooded there. And they did some remediation work was done, but it probably because it took so long to get the remediation work done in there, and the mold had set in, and we were in there, and we were constantly getting ill, chest infections. Everybody, Colby, myself, my wife Sharon, my daughter.
Do you remember what it
Madison.
was like there, Colby, to be in an environment like that? You got sick there? Or were you too little to remember, maybe?
Too little, maybe.
Yeah. There's a lot of, this was said in our story meeting yesterday, Edwin, so I'm just going to, one of my colleagues had said, it's hard for people to wrap their heads around, this happening to Peguis over and over again, and you've been out of your home for so many years. It's hard to wonder whether or not, like some other places might say, like, we would never stand for this. So why do you think this continues to happen to your community and to your people?
Well, I think yesterday when we were having our discussion, it was somebody said, "Well, who do you blame?" They asked me that question, "Who do you blame?" And I said, "I don't think I can blame anybody. I think what needs to happen is who is responsible for our First Nation when it comes to our treaty rights." And I think that when you take a look at it, the treaty rights is the federal department, and and I think that we're wedged between the provincial government's responsibilities and the federal government's responsibilities, and then you look at the municipalities there, and what has happened is what's caused all of the flooding. I believe nature's caused some of the flooding, but I also think that we have so many drainage ditches that go through our community into our little tiny river that's sometimes maybe 100 feet wide. In some areas, it's probably 20 feet wide. And then every springtime, it turns into a mile wide river, and when that turns into a mile wide river, everyone's affected by that. And I know probably about 15 years ago when we were maybe even 18 years ago, I'm just trying to think, but I seen a surveyor in our community, and he was by the creek where I live. I live in the bush, and he was by a creek there, and I went out to that creek. I got on my skidoo, and I went out to see him, and I asked him, I said, what are you doing here? Are you all right? And he says, yeah, I'm fine. I said, well, what are you doing? And he says, I'm trying to find the fastest way for water to run through Peguis. And I was like, holy smokes.
So you feel like there's been some things that have the land's been adapted over the years by different individuals and different things, different cuts, different diversions that actually have affected the water flow to make it even worse.
Yeah. And I think that nature plays a role in it, but I also think that somebody has to be responsible for it continuously
happening.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us, and being so open with us as well, and for bringing your grandson. Colby, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And thank you very much, Edwin.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, nice to see you. That was Peguis First Nation member Edwin McCorrister and his grandson Colby Chartrand McCorrister in studio. He's 17. Both have been out of Peguis since 2011. Colby saying now Winnipeg really is his home. He's adapted to living here. As for Edwin, he continues to visit Peguis, and we're continuing to try to get answers because people are going to be evacuated starting today for this spring's flooding. Heather Wells is here with headlines.
Good morning. Well, and that flood threat in Peguis is now starting to force more people out of the community. Those with health issues or who are pregnant are getting top priority. One woman, Angela Flett, says she is not leaving, so we'll hear from her. Also, a Winnipeg-based garment maker with a more than 100-year-old history is entering a new era. Fried and Fried has been sold to Brokenhead.
Thank you, Heather. That's our local headlines. World Report is next.
On cue, she dressed the Governor General when the Pope came to Canada. She put Haida art on the Oscars red carpet. Her work is shown in Paris and Tokyo. Dorothy Grant is a pioneer of Indigenous fashion in this country, and she'll be here to tell you her story.
Fashion is about culture. It is about a place and time in our life.
Q with Tom Power this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
CNN's Fareed Zakaria has spent his career explaining the state of the world, and these days the state is one of turmoil. Fareed Zakaria on America's influence and opportunity for Canada and our increasingly unpredictable world, coming up on The Current.
This World Report. Good morning. I'm Angie Seth.
We actually heard what we thought were fireworks or fireworkers, and somebody asked, was that gunfire? And the vendor said, yes, that's gunfire, run.
Vancouverite Brenda Lee describing the moment her Mexican vacation turned terrifying. A gunman opened fire on a popular tourist site yesterday. Brenda and her companions survived, but one Canadian was killed, another injured, and so were 12 other people. The CBC's Jorge Barrera has the latest for us on the incident.
Atop Mexico's Pyramid of the Moon, fear and violence. In video verified by CBC News, tourists watch as a lone gunman stalks around, pointing a weapon. Gunshots can be heard, while off to the side several people lay motionless. The shooter then runs up, as tourists run down to get away. Daniel Edwards from Windsor, Ontario, watched it unfold.
He wasn't like a sniper looking down a scope into a crowd. He was someone just with a handgun, kind of just shooting almost sporadically.
Mexican authorities say a Canadian woman was killed and another Canadian injured. A woman in her 20s shot in the chest. Also injured are Russian, Dutch, U.S., and Colombian nationals, including a child, some with gunshot wounds, others from falls down the steep pyramid. Authorities say the gunman took his own life. They also found a knife and ammunition at the scene. The Teotihuacan Pyramids, only 50 kilometers northeast of Mexico City, saw 1.8 million international visitors last year alone. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum was quick to offer condolences, saying in a statement, "The incident deeply pains us," and adding that she was in contact with the Canadian embassy. Police haven't revealed the motive, but local reports say that the gunman had been shouting that tourists shouldn't be at the site, which belonged to the gods. Jorge Barrera, CBC News, Tulancingo, Mexico.
To other news now, preparations are underway in Pakistan for a new round of talks between the United States and Iran aimed at ending the war the U.S. and Israel launched more than 7 weeks ago. A 2-week ceasefire is set to expire tomorrow, and as Tom Perry reports from Jerusalem, it's still unclear whether that ceasefire will be extended.
In Pakistan's capital, soldiers and security agents are out in force under billboards reading Islamabad talks, as Pakistan's government prepares to host a second round of negotiations aimed at ending the U.S. war on Iran. With a 2-week ceasefire set to expire tomorrow, there's still much uncertainty around these talks. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to fly to Islamabad today. Iran has not yet said definitively whether it will send a delegation to meet him, though the Reuters news agency has quoted an Iranian official saying Tehran is positively reviewing its participation. Iran remains frustrated with a U.S. naval blockade of shipping into and out of its ports, accusing Washington of trying to force it into submission. For his part, U.S. President Donald Trump posted several messages on social media yesterday, writing, "I'm winning a war by a lot," and that things are going very well, calling his Democratic opponents weak, pathetic traitors, and accusing what he calls the anti-America fake news media of rooting for Iran. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has just named a new advisory council on Canada and U.S. trade. It includes former Harper-era cabinet ministers Lisa Raitt and Aaron O'Toole, former Quebec Premier and veteran trade negotiator Jean Charest, as well as industry experts with stakes in manufacturing, softwood lumber, and the Arctic. Now, the shakeup comes just ahead of a July 1st deadline to review the CUSMA Trade Pact. For more, let's go to CBC's Janice McGregor in our Parliamentary Bureau. So, Janice, talk to us more about why Carney would be announcing a new team of advisors.
Well, let's start with the fact that the context and the dynamics for this review are quite different than the previous renegotiation of NAFTA, including the issue set. The chair of Canada's premiers is hearing that Canada's dairy industry, for example, may not be the focus of the drama this time. Here's Rob Lance on what Donald Trump's ambassador, Pete Hoekstra, told him.
He doesn't think that supply management is going to be up for any substantial changes. Those are encouraging words.
Instead, administration officials are laser focused on threats to U.S. manufacturing, sharply critical of Canada's recent decision to allow electric vehicles from China into the North American market. The U.S. trade representatives also expressed concerns with Canada's pharmaceutical pricing model. Brand name drug protections are an old fight that could be up for a revival. And U.S. digital giants remain deeply unhappy with Canada's moves to regulate online content and support its own cultural sector. Mark Carney's made some recent elbows-up appearances lately, promoting Canadian music and movies, perhaps signaling that this is going to be a fight ahead.
So what do we know about how this CUSMA review process will unfold then over the next couple of months?
Trump's trade representative Jameson Greer says he wants to work out separate protocols with Mexico and Canada to fix the things that the Americans don't believe are working well with the existing three-way deal. Now, separate talks boost U.S. leverage, preventing any kind of 2-against-1 dynamics with Canada and Mexico sticking together to push back. And to that end, Greer met with his Mexican counterpart yesterday, announced that their first official negotiating round will be in late May. The list of issues to resolve with Mexico is thought to be longer than the U.S. beefs with Canada, but Greer's talks with Dominic LeBlanc so far have not set a date for an official negotiating round with Canadian officials.
Okay, Janice McGregor for us in Ottawa. Janice, thank you.
You're welcome.
Canada Post is in crisis, and the numbers prove it. The national mail carrier says it lost nearly $1.6 billion last year. That's the biggest loss ever. Marina von Sackelberg has more.
We absolutely don't want to be relying on taxpayers to top us off so that we can continue to operate.
Spokesperson John Hamilton says Canada Post will likely need more government bailouts in the future. The Crown Corporation has been relying on $2 billion in federal loans just to stay afloat, and it continues to bleed money. In 2025, Canada Post says it lost more than $1.5 billion. That's a new record. It blames old federal regulations that prevented it from competing with private mail carriers and labor disputes. Nationwide strikes completely shut down mail service right before the last two busy holiday seasons. Hamilton says they're having trouble getting those customers back.
And this year, we're consistently down again because our large retailers, those who ship a lot of parcels, are saying, we'll talk to you when you have certainty. Until then, we're going to stay with the competition.
Canada Post has begun a major restructuring to stay financially viable. Last week, it announced which new postal codes will lose door-to-door delivery. All Canadians will be switched to community mailboxes over the next 5 years, saving $400 million annually and leading to job losses. This all comes as the Canadian Union of Postal Workers has begun voting on a new contract. The union has yet to comment. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
And finally, plans to build one of Canada's largest AI data centres are facing growing pushback in Saskatchewan. Bell Canada wants to break ground on the $1.7 billion project this spring, but the speed and scale of the plans is concerning some residents. As Alexander Silberman tells us, it's even sparked protests.
Say no to AI! In the face of angry and vocal opposition, a rural municipality near Regina voted to give Bell Canada the green light, approving a development agreement for what the telecom says will be the country's largest AI data center. Dan Rink is Bell's president of AI Fabric. He says the company's facilities are quiet and don't use water to have minimal impact on communities.
We go through all permitting and all environmental studies, and we build these in a way that allows us to be really proud of them.
hundreds of residents have turned out to protest the plans in recent weeks, criticizing transparency and speed. The 64-hectare project was only announced about a month ago. The majority of councillors voting on the data center were not elected, but recently appointed by the provincial government.
We would like to be asked.
Resident Sarah Dirksen says she's upset about the lack of public consultation.
We would like to be a part of the decision-making process before we just build a giant center that's going to exhaust tons of our resources.
Bell says it will bring billions of dollars in revenue to Saskatchewan's economy and add 80 permanent full-time jobs. It aims to break ground on the project this spring. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
And that's the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Angie Seth. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live from our CBC studios, 15 on Portage Ave. And I'll tell you what, everyone's going to be in a better mood because it's going to be nice today. It's been that kind of spring, right, where the whole province is waiting. You can feel it. Everyone's kind of a bit edgy and waiting for it. Today across southern Manitoba, we have beautiful conditions. We're talking sunny and 17 degrees for Winnipeg. And yes, we are still watching the very real possibility of problems with flooding. So we'll keep that in the back of our minds as we hear the news headlines this morning about what's developing in Peguis. This half hour on CBC's Information Radio, there's a brand new show that you might have checked out. The premiere actually was in Winnipeg at the Met last night. It stars Blue Bombers All-Star Brady Oliveira shining a light on the high-stakes stories of dog rescues in our province. He and co-host Alex with a few furry friends are live in studio with us this morning. So I encourage you to watch our YouTube stream because you want to see this interview. That's coming up in just a moment. Also, Abby's going to have that full forecast as we look around the province. Right now, though, let's go to Heather Wells, who joins us with live news headlines, as mentioned, at 8:11 a.m. Hi, Heath.
Hi there. Good morning. Well, evacuations have now started at Peguis First Nation. Expectant mothers and people with health issues are being moved first, but one person does not plan to leave. Angela Flett says while it's good to see the community so organized this time, she says she's going to stay behind to monitor and protect her property. We're going to hear from her coming up. And the scales of justice have ruled in favor of a sport fisher who challenged his Eastern Manitoba municipality in court. The RM of Alexander banned Pinawa Bay's Aaron Weeb from attending its council meetings for 3 years. Weeb took that to the Court of King's Bench, which ruled the municipality has no authority to enact a blanket ban on someone it considers disruptive. We'll hear more on that story as well in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby Adiyemi, look at you. You're all glowing today.
Yeah,
the forecast, best news ever.
It's a bright one across the southern regions. Lots of sunshine on the forecast today, but we're still tracking light snow and even some pellets in the Flin Flon area this morning. So take it easy. You're getting some freezing rain in that part of the province. For the Red River Valley region, we're looking at mainly sunny skies. Some windy conditions will be sweeping in at some time around the noon period. Current temperatures at the Forks, we're tracking -5 there. We're tracking 5 degrees there, rather, and we're tracking 3 at the airport. We're expecting a high of 17 degrees today, and then we drop to 5 degrees overnight before we hit that high of 21 tomorrow. Similar conditions we're seeing in the southern regions. Brandon hitting a high of 21 today, while Dauphin gets to 15. Up north, we're dealing with snow palette towards Flin Flon, as mentioned earlier, and we're seeing light snow around Gillam Lane Lake towards Churchill this morning. So a snowy condition up north and sunny conditions down south. More like spring day in the southern parts of the province. Winnipeg, 5 degrees right now.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
What's up in the commute, Corey?
Still some black ice.
Oh, I think your mic's not on.
Oh, no.
Can I help you?
Oh, yeah. There we go. Right there. Perfect. Thank you. There's still some black ice out there. Got a call from Jason who says that on Wellington West, some black ice. He was biking actually and caught him off guard though. So you kind of got to stay on the side. Also, Thomas called northbound Main just past Chief Peguis and the curb lane. It's blocked due to construction there for about half a kilometer. So keep left to get around that. Might be a little bit backed up, especially on the commute home later today. If you see anything else, 204-788-3093.
I got you.
Unleash the hounds. We have 4 dogs.
It's a blended family.
It's a blended family.
If it didn't get along, I think this might have been done. Well,
Yeah,
just think.
no, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I got her.
Yes.
She's going nuts. Shoot, Brady, come. Go. All that work for this little thing. Worth it.
It's like a little football. I'm a professional football player, but my real job is dog rescuer.
Right, let's go, come on. There's only one athlete in the family, and it ain't me, buddy. I've traveled the world rescuing dogs. It's my purpose in life.
That's a little bit of the trailer from Must Love Dogs, starring Winnipeg Blue Bombers star Brady Oliveira and his partner Alex Bloomberg. The next new show takes viewers on a journey, as you heard, to rescue and rehome dogs from all across our province in Manitoba. The first 4 episodes of the show are streaming now on CBC Gem, and Brady and Alex, we really have to thank for being in studio, because last night they had their premiere at the Met, so you must be mighty tired, Brady.
Yeah, it was a long night, really busy day yesterday, but super blessed and grateful for just this whole experience, and with Alex and I hosting an amazing event. Obviously, because of the show, because of filming season 1 of Must Love Dogs, we were able to host this amazing event, bring around 600 dog lovers under one building, and raise money for 3 amazing rescues last night with Canine Advocacy, Winnipeg Pet Rescue, and Manitoba Animal Alliance. So 3 rescues that we helped support in season 1 of filming Must Love Dogs. And drum roll, because last night we raised $100,000 for these 3 rescues. So
Amazing.
it was a very successful night.
Yeah. What was it like for you, Alex, to watch? We heard you in the trailer saying there's one athlete in the family and my life's about the rescue. But what's it like for you what was it like for you to watch the audience, see the show last night at the premiere at the Met?
Yeah, I mean, you never really get to see people's live reactions if they're watching something. People are at home watching TV. So getting to see all of these people's reactions to the show, it was really special. It was an incredible evening. Even our reactions, we were the ones in it doing it, and I'm like, oh my God, did we get that puppy? Is that puppy okay?
Trying to remind yourself.
Yeah, he
of
was
what
like,
you did.
we literally did. I'm like, did I lose my arm in that scene? Did the shed fall on me? The way they put it all together was just even us watching who experienced it and do it every day, and even the other rescue groups that were there, they were just it was just so amazing to see and to watch.
Well, congratulations on it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I should tell listeners right now, if they're listening to Brady and Alex, you also should be watching on YouTube where we stream this show live, because you guys have brought some dogs in, and we asked Corey. You're a good sport, Corey, by the way. We're like, hey, Corey, why don't you get on the floor? So Corey's on the floor. He's actually shooting the dogs from their eye level because they're hanging out.
Is Wasabi passed out?
I don't know. Is he sleeping?
He's having a good sleep.
Yeah, he can live with us. I always wanted a studio dog. Look how cute they are.
Oh my gosh.
These are your golden retrievers. These are your personal dogs, Alex?
These are, yes. Yeah. And we have
2 out of the 4.
Yeah, 2 more at home. Yeah. That didn't want to come this morning because Lady is 14 and she was still sleeping, and Nellie was also still sleeping this morning. So
are they rescues, Brady, or are your dogs all rescues too?
Yeah, they're all rescues. So Nellie was my OG dog that I rescued actually in Nelson House, Manitoba. I got her about 6 years ago. It's been a while. My OG dog. She's a very special place in my heart, obviously. And then there's Gunner. Gunner is the big golden over there. He is from a rehoming situation. And then Lady is Alex's OG dog. Yeah, she's an old girl, 14. She's a Shepherd Mastiff mix. And then we have Wasabi, another golden that's here in studio. Yeah. He's miniature golden, a lot smaller than Gunner, but all rescue dogs.
Yes,
they're adorable. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what calls you to the work, Alex. Why do this, and what was your first? How old were you when you first thought, okay, this is part of who I am?
Yeah, so I started doing rescue work about 18 years ago. My mom was always very involved with the Humane Society and rescuing dogs, so we always had rescue dogs. And I traveled overseas when I was about 20, and I lived in Thailand, and that's kind of when I really got involved with organizations. And then I had no idea, even being from Winnipeg, the issue that we had in northern Manitoba until I moved back here and started going on some of the frontline rescues. And I was blown away. Even though I had been doing rescue for so long, I didn't realize it was such an issue in our own backyard.
How do you describe the issue, Brady? What and how much of a need there is in Manitoba for rescue?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to my mind, it's the overpopulation, and I think it's because the resources. The farther north you go, when you're heading into these First Nation communities, just the harder it is for them, So I think, more rescues being able to go into these communities and to provide support, provide resources. And I think the biggest thing, obviously, Alex and I talk about this all the time, to help curb the problem of overpopulation of dogs across northern Manitoba, but not just northern Manitoba, there's other parts of Canada and then all over the world, of course. The one thing to make this thing kind of go away, or at least help the situation, is spay and neuter clinics. And I think, especially when we're talking at northern Manitoba, the farther north you go, the more remote it gets, as we all know. So I think those are the communities that really need to have accessibility and resources to spay and neuter. So maybe there's more spay and neuter clinics that are being ran in those remote communities. So hopefully that's something Alex and I can do, with their platform, do a lot more initiatives in those remote communities when it comes to spay and neuter clinics.
Yep. I got to ask one of the pushback questions here, because as you both know, some dog rescue groups get criticized for going to First Nations communities and removing dogs that sometimes belong to people, or feeling like it creates sort of sometimes a stereotype that no one in the North cares for their dogs. How do you work with communities that you visit, for the work that you do?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working with a lot of the same communities for years now. A lot of these rescue groups, same thing. It's a very sensitive subject, of course. There's a lot of people in the community, and you'll see this in season 1 of our show, that are involved and are actively trying to do better and to give these dogs a better chance at a good life. Like Brady said, it's a lot of limited resources, and I think it's about educating people on the fact that not everybody's trying to harm their dogs. We're not trying to take the dogs. If we can let the dogs live there and be healthy and happy, that is always our first choice. But yeah, I think it's more so about just educating about sterilization clinics and then allowing the resources to be able to actually do that, right? So yeah, I mean, of course, it's...
We had Manitoba's top vet on the show actually talking about exactly that, and he had just come back from being north with one of those clinics you're talking about, that to try to offer more of the services and education in community and just resources like we might have take for granted in Winnipeg.
100%, yeah.
Did you start rescuing dogs because of Alex, or how did you get sort of down this path?
Yeah, my best dude here, my best buddy Ryan Clausen, actually is the one who got me involved. This is about 6.5 years ago, and his partner Jasmine Colucci is the founder of Canine Advocacy. So that was the first rescue that I started volunteering with, and we still do a lot with him. You'll see in season 1 of Must Love Dogs on CBC Gem that that's a big rescue that we do a lot of work with. I actually have them tattooed on my arm. They're the canine logo.
Let's see this action.
Yeah, I have to show you guys. It's
get in there.
Here, we can get in there, because is Corey still in here? Is he on the floor with the dog?
He's laying on his stomach on the floor currently.
Yeah, here's the canine logo, and I've
Corey, we gotta,
a bunch of
take your time, Corey. Don't worry.
Dogs on
Don't
here.
get a cramp getting up. Okay.
That's the canine logo.
Yeah.
So this whole arm has 10 dogs in it, but so in season 1 of Must Love Dogs, we
look. There's Gunner, Corey. If you turn over Brady's arm, look.
Yeah.
Oh, we're comparing on our YouTube feed right now the shot of the tattoo on Brady's arm of Gunner to Gunner's real face.
Yeah,
so that's a good tattoo.
So we work along closely with Canine Advocacy, and that's kind of how I got involved in rescue. Ryan, I was very curious of the work that he was doing. Ryan's been doing it for probably 15 years now, and he was posting it on his socials, and I was very intrigued. I was like, what is a rescue dog? I knew a little bit about it, but not to the extent of it. And I remember he asked me to come along a rescue with him. We went up north, and more so to come second set of hands or just for company.
Yeah.
We're going hours up north. So I went and joined him, and I remember that first rescue, I went in completely blind, not knowing what to expect. We ended up coming back with 30 dogs, a bunch of puppies, and I was like, wow, I did not know. I'm so proud to be a Winnipegger. I love this city so much, and I love this province. And when I saw this was a problem that was going on right here in my own backyard, I was like, I'm blessed with an amazing platform being a pro athlete. Why not use this and really make a difference? And that's from that day on. I mean, we say the rest is history, because I've just been hooked since and want to make a difference.
How do the Bombers fit into the show?
Yeah, the show's amazing. If you're a dog lover, it's for you. If you're a sports fan, it's for you as well, because you're going to see kind of a behind the scenes of, what it takes to be an elite level pro athlete. Everything from the start of training camp last year to the devastating loss in Montreal when we lost in the playoffs, and then everything in between to, off-season training throughout the season, the highs and the lows, the adversity that I faced last year with my shoulder injury, and, our conversation of, my mindset of, they told me I was going to be out for 8 weeks, and me trying to push back and try and, cut that timeline in half.
So you guys open your life up in this as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you hope that people understand about what dog rescue is about, and what's the hardest part of dog rescue, Alex, if they watch this?
I mean, there's so many highs and lows with dog rescue. We always say, we're just regular people that have a passion, and that passion happens to be dogs. I just hope that the show inspires people to get involved in any capacity, whether you can foster, or you're thinking about adoption, or you can donate, or you can share, or you can speak up about issues that are important to you. So we just hope that it inspires people to get involved in whatever they might be passionate about. And if it happens to be dogs, then this is a great show to kind of show you how you can get more involved.
In terms of some of the rescues you've been involved in, is it right that you were just talking to people about Peguis flooding this morning? Yeah. Were you in Peguis rescuing dogs a few years ago?
Yeah, I did, honestly, one of my craziest rescues to date in Peguis 4 years ago. It was when they were also being evacuated due to flooding. So heartbreaking that, people have to be removed from their homes, and unfortunately some dogs are left behind. So I did a rescue there 4 years ago.
Doesn't that drive you crazy? Yeah. We were reporting on the fires last year, and it hadn't dawned on us, and it was just the reality that, the dog's not getting on the plane. Yeah. And so there's all these, it's heartbreaking. So tell me a bit about this rescue.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. Was able to rescue a mom and 2 pups that were kind of left behind there, and I had to trek through ice cold water, and
I've seen the video to this.
Got hypothermia at the end of it, but I always say it's all worth it, because now those 3 dogs, the 2 pups and the mom, just hit the jackpot. And actually, Alex and I are going to be doing a big rescue on Saturday. We're going to head up to Peguis First Nation and really just support in any way that we can. Load up our vehicle with kin and advocacy, bringing up dog food, bringing up any supplies, and just being, there for the community, being a support system. And if they need us to step in, and if there's dogs that need to be surrendered or dogs that need to come into the city and get spayed or neutered, then we'll be there to support.
Thank you guys, especially after your big premiere tonight, for being here and live in our CBC studio this morning. We appreciate it. Congrats on the $100,000 raise.
Thank you.
That's so awesome.
It was, we had that goal in mind, and we're like, might be a little far fetched, but let's see what we can do. And we raised $100,000 last night for 3 amazing rescues.
Good luck with the series. Go get another Grey Cup, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. Appreciate it.
And you can leave the dogs if you want.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Corey's pretty comfortable on the floor.
They're
with them,
both
it seems
out
like
cold
now.
anyways.
I think they're sleeping. Winnipeg Blue Bomber star Brady Oliveira and Alex Bloomberg, co-host of Must Love Dogs. If you want to check it out on CBC Gem, do that. First 4 episodes available now. You can stream them, and there's new episodes out every Monday.
The puck may have dropped on the playoffs, but the news doesn't stop for hockey. I'm Brittany Greenslade, host of CBC Winnipeg News at 6. To get your local news, stream CBC Winnipeg News at 6, 24/7 on CBC Gem, the CBC News app, and selected streaming platforms. CBC Winnipeg News at 6, your local news on your favorite streaming device.
Our community.
Those who shape this place come from all walks of life.
Some of us you hear every day.
And others are working hard to make Manitoba a better place.
The movers and shakers.
The change makers. The people making a difference.
And CBC Manitoba is where you'll hear their stories.
CBC Winnipeg News at 6.
Information radio, up to speed.
Radio News. CBC.ca/Manitoba.
Watch, listen, experience Manitoba.
It is 8:28 a.m. right now, and if you're experiencing our province today, then in the south you're going to have a lot of sunshine to enjoy. Don't forget the shades is the message. A high of 17 today in Winnipeg. In Brandon, sunny and 21. And up in Thompson, it is, of course, a little bit different up north. It is -6 right now, but your high is going to be 0 as well, with some periods of light snow beginning this afternoon. Let's talk to Marjorie Dalhouse. She's just popped into the studio to tell us what's up on the call-in portion of Radio Noon today. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Marcy. You just had Brady Oliveira in here talking about the new show that features his dog rescuing efforts. And we're actually going to continue that conversation on our call-in today after 12:30. We're asking you to share your stories about an animal that you've rescued. What won you over? Give us a call. I mean, we're going to get a little bit emotional here because we want to hear from you about that special furry friend. And a lot of people would say, you know what? I didn't rescue them. They rescued me. So we want you to call in and share your stories. We're going to talk to a Manitoba rescue agency coming up here after 12:30. So text and call us.
I love that. Whenever you hear from people about their little dogs, they're so grateful.
Yes.
You know, and it's a pet, right? Any pet probably you're opening up to, I'm guessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
dog,
it doesn't have to
cat,
be a dog.
Lizard, whatever you've got. Let us
Dog,
know.
you're hearing my dog bias. Sorry.
Yes.
Thanks, you, Marge.
Thanks, Marcy.
That is Marjorie Dalhouse, the host of Radio Noon. So between 12:30 and 1 is their call-in portion of the show. Just want to mention here before we get to the top of the clock that Earth Day is tomorrow. So if you want to weigh in with how you're feeling about how green or not Manitoba is, and that is when it comes to initiatives and policies, please let us know. And also what motivates you to care for the earth in your own daily life. You can always call our listener line. We'll get some of those calls on tomorrow. It's 204-788-3205. That's 204-788-3205. Your news from Manitoba is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. It is 5 degrees right now. You're being greeted by a beautiful blue sky out there. Sun will shine through the day. A bit of a southerly breeze and warm today, a high of 17. Some people in Peguis First Nation are on the move, being forced out by the flood threat. Those with health issues or those who are pregnant are getting top priority. Meanwhile, crews are still busy protecting properties. 4 crews using 15 truckloads of sand building a dike around Angela Flett's cousin's home. Flett says the house is still being renovated from the last flood 4 years ago. She says it's good to see the community so organized this time, but Flett says she needs to stay behind.
Oh, it is very important because I said we got to watch our sump pumps. We went through I don't know how many sump pumps in the last flood because they're steady running. So I'm not being evacuated, I'm staying. Even if the water comes, I said my mother never left her home in 2022 and I'm going to watch our homes, make sure that they're safe.
Flett admits it will be scary to stay behind once the flooding starts. A century-old manufacturer based in Winnipeg is entering a new chapter. Broken Head Ojibwe Nation has purchased Freed and Freed International with eyes on economic and employment opportunities for First Nations people. Chief Gordon Bluesky says the First Nation can open new doors in the company's already existing relationships with the Canadian Armed Forces and the RCMP.
This is something that I believe that we can take to that next level in terms of having not only our involvement, but also to have these governments actually check the box on First Nation procurement opportunities. And right now, we don't see that happening.
Freed and Freed has also manufactured items for Canada Post, Parks Canada, and in the past, the country's Olympians. Bluesky says a point of pride would be to one day see an athlete or a worker don a uniform that says Made in Treaty 1. The scales of justice have ruled in favor of a sport fisher who challenged his eastern Manitoba municipality in court. The RM of Alexander banned Pinawa Bay's Aaron Weeb from attending its council meetings for 3 years. Weeb took that to the Court of King's Bench, which ruled the municipality has no authority to enact a blanket ban on someone it considers disruptive. Lawyer Kevin Toyne represented Weeb in court.
If someone is being disruptive at a particular meeting, councils have the ability to put an end to that. But that person who is disruptive has the opportunity to come back to the next meeting, behave themselves, redeem themselves, and be allowed to continue to attend and observe.
Toyne says people owe his client a debt of gratitude for standing up for the fight to observe council meetings. The Manario Trail will reopen this summer after all. The province says it has a recovery plan for the fire-damaged trail in Whiteshell Provincial Park. Volunteers will help clear brush in hopes of making the trail passable. Heavier machinery will come in this fall to get rid of downed trees. Environment Minister Mike Moyes says the province wants to create new distance hiking trails in other provincial parks to take the pressure off Manario.
It kind of started with COVID, lots of people getting out into nature, spending more time out there, and the popularity just hasn't actually went back. And so we want to make sure that people have those opportunities.
Moyes did not say which other parks could get new distance hiking trails. He says government officials plan to meet with the Manitoba Trails Association to discuss potential candidates. And the Royal Winnipeg Ballet is taking it on the road, touring rural and northern Manitoba communities. The On the Edge tour started a northern leg last weekend, going through Flin Flon and as far north as Gillam and Wiboden. Dancers performed excerpts from A Midsummer Night's Dream and Swan Lake. They're from the company's student program, which attracts dancers from all around the world, and that includes Molly Zambon from Australia.
We've gotten to see lots of different parts of Manitoba that we don't usually get to see, so we've been able to learn lots and perform for many different audiences, which has been an amazing experience.
And the tour wraps up with 2 performances in Kenora on Friday. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, last look at our commute today.
Yeah, northbound Maine, just after Chief Peguis heard about construction, about 500 meters or so, says Thomas, in the right lane. So keep left to get around that. It is the beginning of construction season, starting to take off now. Other than that, though, if you do see anything else going on out there, you can always give me a call in the future. Write down this number, 204-788-3093.
All right. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
And let's thank the team here. So we have Sierra Sanders. Pardon me. Well, we can always thank Sierra because she's always on our bigger team. I was looking at our Studio 15 team, though, today, and that is Corey Funk and Darren Marash and Abby Adiemi. So big thanks to everybody. As well to our news department, Heather Wells. And I know Megan Ketcherson's out there working for our current affairs department, and Doni Nicolo. And also want to thank the reporters who worked on the show today. And I'll get to that list after our weather with Abby.
Yeah, Marcy, we're looking at a bright spring day with sunshine in the southern parts of the province while light snow continues to fall up north. Down south, we'll see temperatures get close to 21 in the Brandon area. For the city, we're enjoying mainly sunny skies now, heading to a beautiful afternoon sunshine high of 17 in Winnipeg, and expect those sunny skies to stick around till tomorrow, even warmer air coming in.
Okay, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
In addition, as I mentioned, want to thank some of the other folks that worked on the show. Our producers, Nellie Gonzalez and Leif Larson, as well as associate producers, Dylan Longhurst, Sarah Krimilowski, as well as Sophia Peralta-Barone, Megan Ketcherson, who I mentioned earlier, and Issa Kixon. So lots of people working on the program today. Big thanks to everybody who contributed. And of course, we are only here for you and with you. So thank you so much for tuning in to Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Coming up next, it's The Current with Matt Galloway here on CBC. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow, bright and early. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the sun.